So we're out on location at a bowling alley, and not only are we gonna do something pretty cool, but I have my bowling shoes on because I'm ready to bowl. But Todd, what are we really here to do?
We are here to shoot an EPK, which is an electronic press kit. So this could be for any corporate client, any business out there, and a great way to make a couple bucks. Mr. Dave Leno back here, he's an avid bowler. He's looking for an EPK to help promote himself and how knowledgeable he is.
Sure, and another thing that an EPK can be used for musicians, for any business owner. You're telling the story of what they do in an easily consumable piece of content that they can put anywhere and use it pretty much as an advertisement. So you have the clipboard here. What are we talking about?
I got a clipboard here. I have got a shot list first and foremost. Last night I kind of just thought out everything I want to get. Not cutting off creativity whatsoever. We're gonna be inspired while we're here to do some extra things, but at least I've got a roadmap and I'm not gonna miss critical things.
Yeah, remember when we talked about pre-production? That's what you have to do to prepare yourself. Todd has studied up on Dave Leno, Googled him, found his website, read all about him, what he's about, so that helps us figure out how he bowls. We know that he's bowled 300 games, so that really helps with the questions to figure out what direction we're gonna go.
Speaking of questions, I also, like you said, I Googled Dave. I've got a list of questions. These are not the end-all be-all, but these are topic starters. Dave's gonna absolutely say something that is way more interesting than anything I could think of, and we're gonna dive down deeper into that and make it even better.
Sure. Do you have any other notes on here? Are we about ready to start shooting?
I think we're good. The first thing we need to do, get our camera up, find our frame, and then we'll flesh everything in from there.
All right, sounds good. So get ready to follow us on a fantastic voyage of interviewing Dave Leno here for his EPK. Todd, let's get set up.
Let's do it.
You know, you're good at this. It's gonna help your business out.
That's exactly right. I'm looking forward to gaining as many followers as you are.
Yeah, I hope so one day. It's good when you're setting up, even as a one-man band, to take the time to talk to your subject. You want to make them feel welcome. You want to make them feel confident in front of the camera. We talked about this before, so while Todd's doing this, I'm just standing over here. You can cross, you can do whatever you need. Just pretend I'm not even here. Did you hear that? He said crossing as he was crossing. That's something to remember when you're on set. But, you know, Dave's sitting here, something that I would do after I had the setup or while I'm getting ready, I'd be like, so, you know, what I need is just confidence, keep it up on camera, and I'll throw questions to you. It's all right if you make a mistake. We'll just take a quick second, keep saying it, and you're good to go. So how are we looking, Todd?
Our frame's clear. You know, we got a lot of stuff here, so I have a basic idea of where I want to go. I want to see the lanes behind him, you know, these nice lines of balls. I want to kind of get all the atmosphere that's here.
Well, the ambiance.
Exactly.
Getting the stuff set up that is going to add value. Because the scene's about bowling, we want to make sure that the background represents that. If this was a playground and Dave was bowling, it probably wouldn't go over too well. So that's why we want to have that background the way it is.
So, got my tripod here, but first and foremost, I'm going to grab the camera and I'm just going to hold it by hand so I can kind of find where it needs to be before I futz with the tripod up and down.
Todd's doing this off the tripod because you want to find that angle first. Find the angle that's going to work best for you, because if you're on the tripod, you have to constantly unlock the legs, move the legs. It just takes more time. And remember, on movie sets, when you see people always looking through the camera or looking through a loop of some sort, that's so that they see their framing as if they were looking through the camera.
Exactly. So we got our 60D, inexpensive, good entry-level camera for a lot of guys out there. I've put a 24-70 on this. This is a nice piece of glass.
It's a 24-70 2.8.
Yep.
It's a zoom. It's going to give you just the ability to get those tighter shots, wider shots. It's really a good option.
And it'll just help your production move a lot quicker. So I'm going to pop the lens cap off here and power up. Let's see what Mr. Dave looks like here. So, you know what? Let's lose the ball.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Dave. Thank you. Towel.
Yeah, there we go.
So what are you looking for with this, Todd?
Well, I just want to find an interesting shot here. I love lines. Like the lines of the bowling alley, the lines of the ball rack here, just looks really amazing. You got the lines of all these exposed pipes and all that stuff. It just really draws the eye in. Another thing I'm doing, I'm a one-man band. I'm framing him to the right of my frame so he can look here.
So off camera.
He's gonna look off camera on this side. I've got my LCD screen off to the side here. So I'm gonna be not only operating, but I'm gonna be asking questions. So I wanna keep all this stuff on this side of the camera so he has a consistent eye line.
That looks fantastic. I mean, so far it looks good. We have the extra balls sitting off to the side.
Yeah.
They go out of focus. You have the lanes, the nice lighting. It just looks, and we're just using a lot of lights from the lanes as of right now.
The only thing that's unfortunate, if you look here, he's got a plant sticking out of his head.
Ah, yes.
Not really cool. So I'm gonna actually strike these out of the frame.
While Todd's striking that, remember, look for those bogeys in the background. It would be terrible to have those plants sticking out of Dave's head here. That just wouldn't work out well.
Boom. Now he's out of the jungle. There you go. Now that makes it a lot cleaner.
Well, the whole point of framing this up properly is to let us know that we're at the bowling alley. It gives us a great scene.
Exactly. So we've got the balls, we got the lanes, we can see all the way down to the pins. We've got him framed up nicely in a medium shot. And let's see, I'm gonna pull this stool out of here. Let me dip back in here.
So really, it's just about finding what you're looking for.
Exactly. Ah, yes. The look of that frame is a lot better, but he's a little too far away. You know what? Let me have you stand up, come off the stool there. You can come right about here. I'm gonna strike this as well. And let me see how that's looking. That's a lot better. Now what? Take a step to your right. And baby step to the other side. Yep. And let's see, I think. And this looks like a good starting point. I think I can live with this for now, and then we can flesh everything in, fine-tune it from there.
Sure, so the importance here is that we found the frame that we want. Once you find that frame, then you can lock in on your tripod and you're almost ready to go.
Yep, so I'm gonna lock into my tripod, and then we can start talking about lighting.
Sounds good.
All right. All right, that's about where we were when we were holding it with our hand. I think we can start talking about lighting, but before we come in and start bringing all the lights in, Dave might want to get out of the way of all this. So I'm gonna put some marks on the floor so we remember where we had him.
Yeah, marks are important for just about anything that you're doing, especially for talent. If you want them to hit a specific spot, you gotta put a mark down on the ground. It's also gonna help with your tripod, help with your lighting, especially if you have to jump from one area to the next and then come back again. So marks are definitely important.
All right, so I think this looks really good. This is a great starting point for us. I think we can start fleshing in some lights here to pretty it up a bit.
Yeah, so now that Todd has this locked in where we want it to be, we're pretty close, we can still finesse it. Let's start moving into getting the lights set. So Todd, what are you doing over here?
Well, lighting-wise, we've got sunlight coming in through the windows here. So I want to accentuate it with this light here and just build off of that, really. Just keep it simple.
So this is just a big softbox. We've used this before. I love using something like this. It puts out a good amount of light. It's not terribly too expensive. And while Todd's plugging that in, I want to remind you, make sure you have enough power. Make sure you have the power cables, extension cables for when you're on your shoot, because you can't rely on the location to have it for you.
So that looks pretty good. Hey Dave, could I trouble you to step in here back on your marks? Okay. It's definitely helped lighting his face a little bit more, but we're getting a little shadow.
Yeah, it's a little too far off to the side. So what's the solution for this?
I like to do like we did with Maria in our 3-point lighting scheme. Just kind of twist it around here a little bit to fill it in.
Sure, and guys, remember, lighting it's not the most impossible thing in the world. You just have to move things around. All you're doing is moving the light around axes just to see where it works. When you get rid of that shadow, remember back to when we shot Maria, we moved that key light all the way around to the front, and boom, it filled in the rest of the light that we needed.
Yeah. See, now you can absolutely see we've got it wrapping around his face here,
So
filled in
there's
the
some nice
shadows.
dimension in there.
Absolutely. That looks really good. I think that works as our key and a little bit of fill. I'm comfortable with that.
We're building on the process.
Yes.
So we started with thinking about what we were going to do. We set up the tripod. We got the frame you want. We have the lenses we want. We started building off the lights. Now what?
Well, I'd like to separate him from the background a little bit. So I'd like to bring in one of these LED panels and fly it in a little bit over his head just to give him a little kick on the back of his head.
Sure. So go ahead. Yeah, the slight kick that you get from this panel light is great. It's going to separate Dave from the background. We have all the cool lights on from the lanes. We have these balls on here on the racks. We've got Dave standing on his mark that we put down there, and this is just another piece of the puzzle. So 2 lighting setup isn't that hard for what we're doing, especially when we have a little bit of wash coming in from outside. This is a good thing, so Todd's going to get that set up. So are there any tips and tricks you can tell everybody while you're doing that, Todd?
First and foremost, we've got some sandbags down on this. This would get really messy and ugly if we didn't have those. As of now, we've got it armed out, trying to get it over his head, and that way we can keep it out of the frame. And kind of eyeball it a little bit here.
We talked about bogeys many times before. You don't want your lights coming in and seeing those. That's not going to look good in the final product.
Oh yeah, that hair light's really nice. Nice little halo around him, separates him from the background. It's looking really sharp.
Are we about ready to do the shooting?
We're really close. I'd like to lighten up the background a little bit more just to make it pop a little bit. So I'm gonna go down on the side of the lanes here and just hide a light back there just to give it a little kick.
Sure, so remember, lighting is a building process. You don't put all 3 lights on at once and try to make that work. Start with 1 light, get that where you want it. Add another light like we did here with the fill light on the back of his head, and then you put in that 3rd light that we're putting down there. Well, it's just a building process, and once it's set, you're about ready to go.
Alrighty. So we got some background light here. That's awesome.
Yeah, that really made a difference, Todd. I think it's awesome, the lights that you've built. You have the 1 light here, the 1 light there, the 1 light back there, and really just building the process that you did. I think you got us to where we need to go. Are we ready to start interviewing him yet?
Well, I'd love to interview him, but people need to hear him. So I think we need to take care of sound before we move on.
So what are we using for this situation?
I have a wired lavalier that I brought, real inexpensive and a real simple thing to set up.
So guys, remember, sound is extremely important. We've shown you different examples of what the sound would sound like, from the camera to the boom mic to the lavalier. The wired solution for this is a great solution for what we're doing. What I want you to remember is that we are in the bowling alley. There is a lot of noise coming in from the background. We had a couple of options here. We could have asked them to turn off the lanes and the ball returns and everything that was making noise to have a perfectly silent place. But if we did that, we would have lost the lights at the end of the alley. And you know what? They look fantastic in our shot. So that's why we're keeping it on and trying to get our audio right in the camera.
Without a doubt. So let me jump over here and throw this on Dave.
Got it.
First thing I'm gonna do is, if you can, let's drop this down your sweater there.
Okay, sure.
And get that. Perfect. Do that. So we'll get this down here and loop this in here. And we're gonna put this on the outside. This lavalier is dark. He's got some dark stuff on his vest here, so it kind of blends in nicely. No need to hide it in this instance.
Right. Remember, it's an interview. So in this case, it's okay to see the microphone. Now, we're not talking about using the largest microphone in the world because somebody would probably yell at us for doing that, but this works very well. And the fact that it's wired and the framing that Todd has created allows us just to run this wire down Dave's shirt right to the camera, and it's going to be out of the way.
It's got a huge wire, so I mean, we could probably move the camera back if we needed to.
That's a fantastic option to have, Todd.
Yeah, no, so let me, I'm going to turn it on here, and could you just clip that on your pocket there? There's a little clip there. That'll keep tension off the microphone, won't pull cords and wires and cause a short.
And the only thing that he needs to remember is that he can't leave the scene until he unplugs because we don't want to topple the camera.
Take the camera with him. Yeah, so let's plug this in here. All right, so got the mic port right here, and boom. Now we got the mic in there. I absolutely need to make sure to check our levels. So we're in manual. I'm always in manual. I'm never in auto, so automatically I'm in manual. So, Dave, can you just give me a little test here?
Sure. Testing 1 2 1 2 3. Testing 1 2.
Also, Dave, do it at the level that you're going to do it during the interview.
My name is Dave Leno. I'm here for a bowling interview with Todd and Jared. Look forward to sharing my thoughts about the game that I love.
Yeah. So, do you hear that? I want Dave to know that. Because a lot of people do this when you tell them to test their audio. They get quiet. But you want to hear them at their top level. How loud are they going to get? And now, I know Dave gets excited when he bowls, and we're going to ask him questions about his bowling. So, Dave, are you going to get any louder than that?
Probably not.
Probably not while he shakes his head like this. All right. So, Todd, what do we have?
You know what? I would say, Dave, give me something a little louder. Talk loud to me.
Sure. My name's Dave Leno. I'm here for a bowling interview with Jared and Todd. Look forward to diving into the game that has taken me back since I was a little peewee on the lanes.
We're not interviewing you yet, Dave, so save the good stuff for when we start rolling, all right? All right, so we got that.
This is really good. So even when he was talking loud, we were still hovering around that negative 12 decibels, right in the middle, staying in the yellow, not hitting the red, and even when he was louder, we weren't anywhere near the red. This will be a great level for us.
Like we've talked about before, that's the best place to be, and are we now officially ready to start interviewing?
You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to just test it.
Okay.
I'd like to record it and actually test it, play it back, just to make sure everything's there.
So that is definitely a great option. When you're ready to shoot, do a quick test. Hey, give me a quick screen test. Tell me your name. Who are you? What are you doing? You could either play that back in the computer to double check that everything is right. There's no bogeys hiding out in the background, but it seems like we're almost ready to go.
All right, Dave, can you just give me another test?
Sure. Dave Leno here at North Ball in Philadelphia. Look forward to diving into the bowling subject. It's taken me back quite a few ways in the Philadelphia area and really around the country as well.
Great, thank you.
It sounds like to me that Dave's going to be a good interview. If he has this much to say during the pre-part when we're just testing, I can only imagine what he's going to say when we start rolling.
He's a pro. He's better than me.
So right now we're playing back the test in the camera. Todd, what else is important?
Yeah, no, I'm just checking the playback. We've recorded audio, so we know the plug's working. The next thing you really want to do is just verify that it sounds good. Great way to do that would be to plug headphones in and monitor right here. This model doesn't allow that, so the next best thing would be take your card out, dump the footage, listen on your computer. So I'm going to do that before we jump into the interview, but after that, I think we're good to go.
Yeah, remember that when you get to the computer, always have headphones, or you should always have headphones in the bag. If your camera doesn't give you the option, I highly recommend that you have a computer with you so that you can at least play it back and hear it outside of the camera, because the camera's speaker is not that good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take it back to the computer to test it out, but at that point, we're ready to interview Dave.
All right, that audio sounded great.
Yeah, it's really good when you can test it back in the computer. Obviously, it's going to be awesome when your camera has the ability to let you live monitor. This is a little older. That's perfectly fine. So we've shown you the lighting. We've shown you how we got the audio set up. You watched everything that we did, and we're almost at that point where we're ready to shoot. But Todd, what are the settings that we're using in the camera?
Well, we're at 24 frames per second. Love that cinematic look. We're sticking there. Because of that, we're at 1/50th of a second on our shutter speed, double the frame rate like we discussed. We're at a 2.8 on the lens. Our aperture's 2.8, wide open, lots of bokeh in the background, really separates him from the lanes, looks great.
Yeah, guys, remember that even though we're at 2.8, better lenses don't have to be extremely expensive. There's options like a 35-1.8 on Nikon's end. Canon makes a 50-1.8 they call the Plastic Fantastic. We're talking about $200 options that will give you a 2.8. So just because we're using this lens here doesn't mean that you can't pick that up at home as well.
And also, this is an interview. He's not moving around. He's not running around. I don't have to pull focus. So I'm not afraid to use 2.8 because of that. We can set the focus and just go.
Yeah, because we're setting it and we're at 2.8 like Todd said, Dave's not going to be moving. And being that we're shooting a little wider, it's not going to affect the background as much, or it's not going to affect the focus as much. It's going to separate Dave. He's looking great. I think we're just about ready to go.
Yeah, and our lighting scheme really helped out a lot. Our ISO is only 400.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That anytime you can bring down the ISO, that's going to translate to better quality when you're done, which is going to make your videos look fantastic.
Without a doubt. I think if you're ready, we can get ready to interview.
All right, so we're going to move on to the interview. You guys saw everything. You know the settings of the camera. Now let's sit here and get Dave's interview.
All right. Dave Leno, take one. Could you, sir?
Todd.
Thank you. So we clapped there just to make sure our sound was all synced up. All right, Dave, keep an eye line here with me and just answer right to me. Don't look in the camera. It's just a discussion between you and I. Everything looks good. All right, so when I ask you these questions, nobody's going to hear me ask the questions. So if you could just incorporate your questions into your answer. If I say, hey, who are you? I am this, or whatever I ask you, just incorporate it in your answer a little bit so the audience can follow along, because they're never going to hear me in this interview.
Sure, not a problem.
Alrighty, so let's start off with, who are you?
My name's Dave Leno. I went to Indiana University and bowled on the team there. In addition to that, I also taught bowling as a junior and senior in college, and that really stems back all the way to when I was about 12, 13 years old. I was bowling in the Philadelphia area where I really fell in love with the game.
Great. And then could you also could you spell your name for me? Just give me your name and spell it for me so I have it on camera.
Sure, Dave Leno, Davelleno.
Now I do that all the time just because Dave Leno, that's not a difficult one, but when I get into posts and you've got to put somebody's name in the corner to introduce them, you don't want to butcher somebody's name.
So it's important to ask the subject or whoever you're interviewing to spell their name and say it so that when you pop it up on the screen, you don't have any misspellings or mistakes.
All right, great. Let's just take it back there. We're going to do it one more time. Give me an introduction. Just keep it short and sweet, and then we'll get into your background. So just give me a brief overview of yourself. So who are you?
My name's Dave Leno. I fell in love with the game of bowling at around 12, 13 years old, bowled in junior leagues, bowled in local and regional tournaments, then bowled a little bit in college, and have since then just flourished throughout the sport.
Okay, let's simplify your introduction a bit. Give me like 2 sentences. Sure. All right, and let me have it.
I'm Dave Leno, a bowler from the Philadelphia area. I've been bowling since I've been 12, 13 years old and just love it.
Do you see what Todd's doing here? He's asking the same question in a couple of different ways. He's asking him to give a long response. He's giving a short response. So when Todd's editing this, he's having a lot more in the can to choose from. It's definitely a good thing to have people say things a few times. Now, directing is really important. So what Todd's doing is great so far.
All right, so let's dig into your background. When did you fall in love with bowling?
Really fell in love with the sport at around 12, 13 years old. Prior to that, really just bowled at parties and whatnot, that sort of thing. I remember bowling with family and friends on New Year's Eve in Philadelphia. But then a friend introduced me to a league, and around my young teenage years, bowled in a whacked out crazy fun league in the Philly area, and really had no idea what I was doing. I was throwing a straight ball and it was going every which way. So many gutter balls, that's really not the case nowadays, but after I really started to get the hang of things and took it seriously in a competitive mode, I was just having a blast.
Tell me more about the transition from just having fun to really taking it seriously. Give me more.
Well, after I bowled in that whacked out crazy fun league, my average really increased from about probably like a 140, 150 average, spiked towards a 170, 180. And I just bowled on a Saturday morning league with a bunch of kids who were also bowling in high school. I bowled with better people. And for me, and this applies to all sports, not just bowling, when you play with people that are more experienced than you kind of learn from them, you watch how they act, and you kind of repeat the same things. And that's exactly what I was doing. And as a result, that average went from a 170, 180 soon enough to a 200. So it was great.
So you've talked about almost having somewhat of mentors on your team in a way, somebody that kind of tutored you and you picked up from them some great tricks and tips. Have you done the same thing? And if you have, what are some tricks and tips that you might give to somebody on your league that's new?
Yeah, well, I actually took a course for the United States.
Take that back and try to incorporate that. You know, I meant, so because that happened to me, when there's new guys on my team, I give them these tips. So give it to me in that way, in your own words. Yeah.
You know, like me, when I was growing up, I was always watching other people. And now that I'm somebody who can consistently bowl a 200, 210 game, maybe even a little bit over that, maybe a little bit less, I want other people to learn as well. So, for example, when I was a junior and senior in high school, I was one of the top bowlers on the team. I would always help a kid that was a freshman or sophomore who was just throwing that straight ball, really couldn't hit that 10 board, that second arrow, and get it towards the pocket on a flush hit. So I'm the type of kid that would go over and say, you know what, Johnny, Steve, this is what you got to do. This is how you fine-tune your game. The more practice you do and you can't beat yourself up, you'll get there. And it's all about, following what the coaches did and kind of playing that coach mentor, even though I'm a player as well.
Thank you.
I normally wouldn't stop an interview like this, but because I'm sitting here, Todd is doing something that you want to learn from. I know that he didn't have certain questions on the paper that he's going from. What he is doing is listening to Dave talk. And when Dave hits an interesting point, Todd throws it back at him to go and dive in more deep. So that's something that you have to do as a great interviewer. You sometimes have to deviate from the questions that you have. They're good to have because if you're not getting a lot from them, you need to have those questions to ask. But a good interviewer will feed off of the questions and the answers, or the answers that they're giving back, and you just keep going and riffing. And now we're gonna cut back in as if I didn't interrupt at all.
Thank you, sir. So back to teaching new members. Eventually, hopefully your team has a bunch of great guys on it. So you're probably all aiming for that 300 game. So once you guys are up at a good level, give us some tips to bowl better and aim for that 300. What are some things people should think about to try to attain that 300?
Well, you can pin it down to one word.
Give me that question and the answer.
Sure.
Perfect game.
Yep, I got you. In bowling, you want to reach the climax, and the climax of the sport is getting that 300 at the peak. And that is such an arduous task to get 12 strikes in a row, because not only do you have to be consistent, but in bowling, you can have a great pocket hit into the 1-3 pocket if you're a righty, if the 1-2 pocket and you're a lefty. But sometimes, man, you just get unlucky. And that's what's actually a cool thing about bowling. You could hit a shot, and it's actually frustrating too. You can hit a shot perfect every freaking time, and you get a ringing 10 pin. And someone like me, I'm like, oh shit, what the hell's going on there? I get into it, I get frustrated, but you gotta learn from that and stay a little calm, cool, collected, and try to regroup, and you gotta spare that frame game for a 279 game. So to get to 300, you gotta focus, you gotta be determined, but you also have to know that sometimes somebody upstairs has to be on your side as well.
That makes a lot of sense. All right, here we go. Mr. Dave, take 2. Please take that. Thank you, sir.
So Todd, why did you have to reslate?
Well, I noticed I was hitting around the 10-minute mark here. This camera only goes up to 15 minutes at a time. I didn't want to get to the point where I had a great thing going here. He's nailing a question, camera stops on me.
Yeah, guys, that's something that you have to be cognizant of in your camera. Some cameras do 10 minutes, some do 15, some do 29 minutes and 59 seconds, or there's also ways that you can almost record infinitely. We have something that we use in the studio called an Atomos. We're not using it here, but that would give us almost infinite amount of recording time.
All right, so let's get back to that 300 game. Here's the $1 million question. Have you ever bowled a 300 game?
Yes, not 1, not 2, but Todd, I bowled 3 300 games, and they were terrific.
Take my name out of it. They're gonna not know who I am in your EPK. All right, one more time. Let me know. Have you bowled a 300?
I have bowled not 1, not 2, but yes, 3 300 games, and boy, were those nerve-wracking experiences. My stomach was churning. It was like my jaw was to the floor, man. I was shaking.
Tell me, give me an example. Think of the most exciting one. Give it to me from the beginning to the end.
First one was thrown in April of 2007. In fact, it was thrown on April 22nd. Cool story. I was wearing a number 22 Deuce Staley jersey, and if you add up the 5 digits of my birthday, 11389, it equals 22 as well. So that was certainly a little superstition there. Not that I'm a spiritual guy, but when you get to those first 6 frames, it's like, okay, you have something going there. And then really when you get to the 7th, the 8th, and the 9 is when, and people lie about this, you really start thinking about it. Probably you're going to get a lucky one in there. And really when you get to the 10th frame where you got to throw 3 consecutive strikes, I feel like after you hit that first one, you calm down a little bit. I feel like that's the nerve-wracking one. That's the one that I consider to have the most pressure on that shot. Once you get that, you cruise on that, second, and then when you get to that 12th, you just let it, I just say, let it frickin' go, and hopefully it all goes down.
So you're telling me that the pressure eases from the 10th to the 12th frame?
The pressure definitely eases after that 10th shot. There's no question about it, at least from my experience. Some other more experienced bowlers can tell you otherwise. For me, after I get that first one in the 10th frame, I calm down a little bit. And I'm the type of person where a lot of people are superstitious to the fact that they don't want to talk to anybody. I rather have a conversation with people. I rather go to the back, grab a French fry, have some Coke, and then go back and bowl. I just want to be like our average Joe. Some people, really in most cases in bowling, They don't want to talk to the person, just like a baseball player, a pitcher going for a perfect game or going for a no-hitter. He'll sit on the opposite end of the dugout, and everybody else will be on the other side. And if you mutter a word to him, man, will people be on your case. For me, I want people to talk to me. I'll go up and talk about random crap.
What I'd like to get into, we'd all love to bowl that 300, but we got to start somewhere. So if you could, tell us about your thoughts when first stepping up to the line and the anatomy of that game.
Well, even if you're the casual bowler or you're an expert, you maybe want to attain a 300 one day. I hope you would if you really follow the sport, because it's such a great experience to throw one. Even to watch one, it's so thrilling. Now, you got to realize that you got to start from plane A and you got to go baby steps. You got to work all the way at the foundation, and then you get that fingertip ball. You get a shot that goes from left to right, that curves or hooks, as we say, into the pocket. That's what you aim for. But from the get-go, you want to throw a straight ball. You want to follow through. I taught bowling in college, so I taught people the four-step approach, which is a very basic, elementary, fundamental approach, getting from the ball return to the foul line, and it's all about timing. So when I teach people and when I help others, I'm not throwing 15 things at them at once. I'm saying, let's concentrate on the approach. You do that for 10 minutes. Let's concentrate on the arm swing. Let's concentrate on the follow-through. For example, I would say, follow through like you're answering the phone. Or if I related it to a teenager, follow through like you're flipping somebody off. I try to condescend or dumb it down, not in a bad way, but just to relate to different people.
That's great. The first time you step up to the line, give me 3 basic tips.
3 basic tips for bowling very well, regardless of the score. Number 1 is your approach. Are you walking? You're not running to the lane. You got to be smooth walking. You don't want to be running, okay? You want to just take it easy and just like you're walking from here to the next guy. Secondly is you want to get down to the lane as low as possible. Use those leg muscles, man, and you want to get closer, because the closer you are to the lane, to the wood on the lanes, the better chance that you'll have to hit a successful shot. And finally, it's about hitting that mark. You look at the pins, you look at the arrows on the lane, and you try to pinpoint a perfect placement to get that strike.
I'm almost ready to wrap it up. I think you gave us a lot of great information, but I always like to ask everybody, is there anything I haven't asked you that you think is really important to convey to people watching the video?
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of things about bowling that people perceive as really negative. For example, the drinking, the smoking, all that crap. What I recommend is go to a high school match in your local area, wherever you're from, in the US or around the world. Go watch competitive bowling and see how people take it seriously. It's not these beer drinking, beer belly slobs just throwing the ball. There's actually kids that really take it seriously, and if you watch them, it's just like honestly watching a basketball game, baseball game. People get into it. I'm a fiery guy. I get fired up and I get into it. When you watch me, you go, damn, that guy's got a little swagger. And if you watch people like that, you get an affinity for the game as well. So I recommend you go to the casual stuff, play it with your friends, have a good time. Also, though, go out and watch it on the competitive level as well. People who really take it seriously, and some people, in fact, do it as a profession.
This is great. I want to double back one thing. I want to give you some options in the EPK. You might want to pitch this to potential sponsors and whatnot. So once people get into the game, give me some tips and maybe some ideas what there's out there as far as balls and accessories and shoes, and like what are important things to have in your arsenal if you become a regular bowler?
Well, there's many different resources that you can have at your side if you want to really dive deep into this sport. Not only are there several ball manufacturers where you have terrific ball bags and also different equipment as far as the shoes you have. Some people even wear a wrist guard. Some people even have bowling balls that just go straight for a long time, carry the oil. Others like to throw more of an inside out where they'll stand all the way to the left on the lane if they're a right-handed bowler and try to swerve it, or as we say, hook it all the way to the pocket. That's more of a difficult shot. So you go to your local bowling alley and you go to the guy that's in the pro shop and you say, hey, this is the type of ball that I throw. Come out and watch me bowl. And what do you think would be the next step for me? What ball would perform my game or take me to the next level that I want to go to? So I would rely on the experts, just like in anything else. Rely on someone who's been around the game a lot and confess to them that, hey, I might not be great now, but I really want to take this seriously. So to take my score from that 150 to hopefully one day over a 200 in a league average or just for fun, how do I get there?
I have a good question for you. Now, this is just me. I'm a novice. When I go to pick a ball from the lane, how big should it be? Should I pick up the biggest ball, and if I don't pick up the biggest one, am I less of a man? Like, how, if you're an amateur just walking into a lane, how do you know what size ball to pick?
When you go to a bowling alley, you're not going to have the perfect size when you pick up a bowling ball. But the elementary rule of thumb is you stick your thumb in first, ironically, and you put your fingers, your middle and your ring finger, all the way out. And the span has to be perfect. So from your thumb all the way to your ring finger and middle finger, you want them to be stretched out the whole way. You don't want to scrunch it up. When you scrunch it up, you have bad placement, you put some anxiety on your wrist, it hurts, therefore you're not going to have a successful day. You want to lay your hand all the way out comfortably, and that's going to enable you to throw a perfect ball.
Great. Any last words to just wrap it up and take people out?
I hope people out there who have a negative perception of bowling look at it on the competitive side as well. Go to a local league, hang out, have a beer, watch some people bowl in a league, see how much fun they're having, and notice that there's a lot of people out there that started out from nothing, and they put a little time into it, put a little practice, and they turned into something special in the lanes. You can do that too if you follow through with it and just have a great time.
Awesome.
So guys, that is a pretty good take of how an interview would happen. You have to listen to the answers that you're getting back. You feed off of that. You keep the eye contact so that the subject knows where they're looking. This is what it's all about when you're doing an interview. So what we're gonna do, we shot this one way. We wanna zoom in to change it up to get more coverage. As we talked about coverage in the past, we wanna have more options when we go ahead and edit it. So that's what we're gonna move on to right now.
Mr. Dave, take 3. Bam. Thank you.
So what are we moving into now, Todd?
I'm moving into a close-up on him. I want to have some coverage to cut around stuff. Now, we're going to get into some extra stuff, him bowling and some B-roll. But within the interview, I want to have options. I only have one camera here. So the two things I could do is I could shoot it in a medium, and I could zoom while I'm interviewing and go into a close-up as he digs deeper. I can cover up the zoom with B-roll. I'd probably only do that if Dave was on a strict time constraint. But because we've got Dave for a couple minutes, I'm just gonna do it one more time.
So the reason you want to go the second time, you've already asked some great questions. So Todd, I saw him taking notes. He knows what those points were that Dave really went off on, where he gave that great information. So now doesn't have to ask as many questions. He's just going to hit the key questions to get this other angle so that it cuts in well for the final product.
All right, here we go. This time around, give me who you are, and you can actually go into your background whenever you're ready.
My name's Dave Leno. I'm a bowler from the Philadelphia area. I started throwing at around 12, 13 years old in a whacked out crazy fun league that was really just for plain enjoyment. Really had no idea what I was doing. Really enjoyed that experience. Shifted gears from the whacked out crazy fun to more of a competitive league on Saturday mornings that led me to bowl on a high school team in college, and have since then been bowling in a couple leagues, filling in from time to time with a game that I love.
Great, thank you. Let's talk about the ultimate goal, the 300. So let's talk about your experience with the 300, how people might get to a 300, kind of go back and let's retrace what we spoke about before about that perfect game, your experience, tips that you might give people that are at a level that could potentially get there.
When you first start bowling, you're indirectly going to look way down the line and say, boy, would it be nice to roll a perfect game, 300, 12 strikes in a row. When you first start, it's not going to happen. But in time, where you start to get into a rhythm on the lanes and you're throwing that fingertip ball and it's hooking to the pocket perfectly, you say to yourself, hey, one of these days, I might get lucky. Because when you roll 12 strikes in a row, you can throw a perfect shot every time. Most of the time, it's not going to be the case. You're going to get a ringing 10 pin. Something's going to unfortunately fall in the opposite direction, and you're going to be shit out of luck. 300s. I've rolled 3 300s. My first one was in 2007. I'm not a superstitious guy, but I rolled it on April 22nd, 2007. I was wearing a number 22 Deuce Staley jersey, was a running back for the Philadelphia Eagles, and the number 22 kind of special because if you add up the 5 digits of my birthday, 11389, it equals 22. So I need a little luck, and if the man upstairs can help me out when I throw it, I'll take it, man.
Thank you. That's great, man. So that's the ultimate goal, the 300. But what about to the guys just starting out? So let's transition from the 300 to the newbie.
Everybody wants to roll a 300 game, but let's be realistic here. You got to aim small steps. You start out bowling, you throw a straight ball, aim for a 120. You're going to have some open frames. Next time, go out and try to pick up the 10 pin. You keep missing every time. Work on particular shots when you're bowling throughout the game. That 120 will soon morph to a 130, to a 140. And then when you start to get into a rhythm, you get some strikes that go your way. That 140, because if you get consecutive strikes, can really jump you up to a 180. Now, when you're in that 180 mindset and just things are really falling to your wayside, you know that you can come away with a pretty good game. And one of those games, one of those days, you can roll that perfect game.
Awesome. Take us through the 12th frame.
When you roll a 300 game, at least from my personal experience, that first 1 through 6 frames, I'm kind of not even thinking about bowling a perfect game. When you get that 6th, 7th in a row, I kind of like to do a little ice skater dance when I get that 7th. That's kind of my thing. I'm like, all right, in the back of my mind, I'm saying to myself, man, I might have a shot at this. When I get to the 8th and the 9th, your stomach begins to gargle a little bit. I pace around a lot, but I'm the type of guy that likes to talk with people. Many bowlers are superstitious, and you can relate it just like to baseball with a pitcher, one end of the dugout, the whole team on the other end. You can't talk to that pitcher if he's going for a no-hitter or a perfect game. For me, it relaxes me when I talk about normal conversation as if we were just starting bowling. When I get to that 10th frame, that first shot in the 10th frame is really a pressured shot, just for me personally. After I hit that, I'll be like, damn, I have a good shot at getting this. And the 11th and 12th, honestly, if I stay relaxed and cool, hopefully I'll get it.
That's awesome. Thank you. Let's circle back and talk to the beginners. 3 tips stepping up to the line.
3 tips to bowl exceptionally well if you're just starting out. Number 1 is your approach to the lane. I like to stick to the 4-step approach. Just take 4 steps. You're not running to the line. You're not gliding to the line. You're simply walking like you go from your doorstep to the mailbox. So it's just a casual walk. Second thing is get down to the lane as low as possible. If you're a right-handed bowler, you're going to bend your left knee. Get down all the way, because the closer you are to the wood on the lane, the more successful your shot will be to hit your mark. Let me take that over because I stuttered a little bit.
Sure, you can do number 2.
Thank you. The second thing is bending that knee all the way down to the lane. If you're a right-handed bowler, you bend that left knee all the way down. You want to get as close as possible to the lane so you can hit your mark. And the third thing is aiming for something on the lane, whether you're aiming at an arrow, which separates every 5 boards, or it can be a pin. I'm looking at the 3 pin. I'm looking at the 10 pin, depending on the shot you're trying to hit.
Awesome. All right. Let's see. What else do we have here? Choosing a ball. What are some... Yeah, we'll do choosing the ball. What are some things people should think of when they choose a ball?
So if you're a casual bowler going into a bowling alley, one of the first things you do is say, all right, what color ball am I going to use, right? You're not really worried about the size, the weight. You're looking at what looks cool. Now, when you find out, hey, what looks pretty neat, then you kind of say to yourself, all right, I need a heavy ball, I need a light ball if your shoulder hurts and whatnot. The best thing to do in the rule of thumb is stick your thumb in, stretch your hands out, and find a length, a good grip from your thumb all the way to your ring finger and your middle finger. And when you find that correct span, insert the fingers into the holes, and that is what you're aiming for. If they're scrunched like this, that's no good, because you don't want any anxiety with your wrist or any trouble over there. So you want to stay relaxed, and if you are relaxed, you're going to throw a pretty good ball out there. If you're more experienced, I would go to your pro shop in your local bowling alley, ask one of the professionals, this is how I throw a ball. Hey, come check me throw out a couple frames on the lanes and see how I can improve my game. I want to have more of a hook. I want to throw the ball more down the lane. I want more back end. He will recommend a certain type of ball, and you go with what's comfortable in your price range.
Awesome. I'm going to cut.
You mind if I step in for a second?
Please do. Please do.
Well, what is really great, I'm listening to what Dave's saying. I'm just an outsider right here, being that Todd's a one-man band. Todd is writing down certain things, and what I think he's writing down is he's writing down what Dave is saying. When Dave says that you want to do the span of the ball, where the thumb goes and where the finger goes, well, I'm thinking that we're going to get cutaways of that when we move forward. When Dave talks about the four-step approach, well, there's a shot that comes to mind. You show the feet in the four-step approach. So that's what you're doing. Not only are you conducting an interview as the one-man band, but you're thinking about what you're going to move on to next. Todd, are we ready to move on to that?
I'm about ready. We're going to do one more take just to have him wrap it up. But what I'm noticing on this second take is that he's a little more relaxed, and he actually dove into a couple different things. On this particular one, I have a note. He talked about the ice skater dance. He didn't say that on the first one, so as soon as he said ice skater dance, I was like, I'd love to see that visually. Made myself a note. We wouldn't have got that in one take. So doing a second take, not having two cameras, is not the worst thing in the world. We're getting a little extra stuff here that I think is going to be nice in the final edit.
Sure. So you see what's happening as the interview progresses. We're on our second take. We're doing it a little tighter. We did it wider to begin with, but Dave is starting to feel comfortable, and he's throwing things out there that he may not have thrown out the first time, which then allude to things that we may be able to do in pickup shots.
I only have a couple more questions. We'll take this last one. I think we can move on. Alrighty, rolling, and let me see this, and yes sir, Mr. Dave, take 4. Thank you. All right, let me double check. I think we got all of the basics. I think the only thing we need to move on to is anything I haven't asked you that you kind of want to touch on, and that's where you dove into how people look at bowling and whatnot. So give me a wrap up and anything else you think we haven't touched on.
A lot of people who go into a bowling alley maybe once, twice, or 3 times a year have a lot of negative perceptions about the sport. They think it's just for beer belly, beer drinking people that just like to get drunk and throw a ball once in a while. Not the case. Go watch a competitive league, go on a Friday night, go on a Wednesday night, or even watch the seniors if you get time off from work. See how people take it seriously. And when you see that pure joy and emotion from a guy who's 9 years old and from a kid who's 5 years old, you're going to say, damn, there's something to this game where it actually is a lot of fun when taken seriously as well. And you just have that affection for people who really have started from nothing, have really fallen in love with something that they've really wanted to perfect. And it might be an affinity for you as well, and you might catch the spark too.
I would say give me one more thing to camera, introduce yourself right to camera just so we have another option.
My name is Dave Leno. I'm a bowler from the Philadelphia area. I've been bowling since my young teenage years, got involved with just from a friend who said, come on out and try a league, and ever since then, that morphed from bowling in competitive leagues to local tournaments to regional tournaments, bowling in college as well, and now I've fallen in love with the game for life.
Nice. Give me one more, nice, short, and concise. Just give me, hi, my name's Dave Leno, and I'm a bowler.
Hi, my name's Dave Leno, and I'm a bowler.
And cutting. Really like that last shot. We got awesome stuff on both takes. He added some new things. He finessed some other things. It's going to cut really well together. Now, you mentioned I was making some notes here for B-roll. Now, there's going to be B-roll we can shoot. The ring finger in the ball and the ice skater dance. There's also B-roll that I can't shoot. When he won the game and got his first 300, I wasn't there for that. I'm going to ask Dave, you got some photos? Do you have some video from that night? Those are really great things to ask your client for that'll add production value to your entire project.
Wow, that is some awesome information. So we've taken you through the process of setting up this interview. We've set up the lights, we've set up the framing, we talked about how our camera is set, we ran the microphone to the camera, we've heard the interview, which is fantastic. Todd made a lot of notes about B-roll, so it's time that we're gonna go shoot that B-roll to get to cut into our footage. So why don't we move on?
Let's do it. Come on, Dave.
So far, this is feeling really great. We've done a lot of stuff, as we said, leading up to this. Now we're up to B-roll. So we're going to be doing a lot of running and gunning, and I will chime in every once in a while to give you guys some more information about what we're doing. What are you checking out on your list here?
Just checking the notes I made. Obviously, I did a shot list ahead of time. There's things I really want to get. but I want to get everything I wrote and then the new stuff I thought of, and I know I'm going to think of something once I'm out here shooting, so.
Sure, so keep in mind one thing, that Dave isn't mic'd up for sound any longer because this is B-roll that we're gonna cut in to the final video. So we're still mic'd up, you're gonna hear the noises bouncing around, but that's okay. You ready to go?
All right, let's do it.
All right. So where are you gonna start, Todd?
I want to get a wide establishing of the whole lane, everything going on. I want to get on this crane. I'm actually going to throw this 10-22 on here, get a super wide shot, just as an establishing opening shot, something pretty.
Yeah, it's really good to have a bunch of different options in lenses. Like we said, there's those inexpensive ones that you can have that are still quality, but then as you build your bag up, as you make more money and do more jobs, you're able to get those specialty lenses that you really want to have. Todd's gonna set up to do this establishing shot of Dave. I know what he's gonna do. He's gonna get on this crane. It's gonna really be a nice lead in to what we're doing, or lead out, or it just works in general. So you're clicking in here, Todd.
Yep.
What are we thinking frame rate wise for shooting bowling?
I'm going to shoot at 24 and I'm going to shoot at 60. I'm going to flip back and forth. I'll take one shot with 24, one shot in 60, just so I have options in post.
But guys, we were at 24 frames a second for the interview. Now, being that bowling is an action sport, not that you're going to get tackled, but that you're going to be moving, we may want to shoot a little bit at 60 frames a second to give ourselves the option to slow it down after the fact. Are you going to put any extra lights on this, or are you just going to use the lights that are in the bowling alley?
For right now, I'm going to probably have to strike these lights. I'm going to have to push them out. This is a really wide shot. I don't want to take them all the way out because when I start getting into close-ups, I may need to pop a little light on them.
Do you find that the B-roll part is more fun?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little more running and gunning. It's a little more experimental. I'm probably going to get inspired to do some crazy things.
Sure.
It's fun.
All right. So Todd, as you're playing around with the balance, what are you looking for?
Well, this lens is a little lighter than the other one, so I just have to make some adjustments. You really want to, right now it's kind of still falling, so I want to balance it out so it's just stable the whole time. It's way too much.
So do you like how smooth that is?
I love it, and I'm going to actually use these balls as a foreground element. So I'll come off of the balls, and as he comes in, I can reveal him in a nice big space here.
So being that you're shooting wider, what aperture are you looking at?
The end of this lens is 3.5, so I'm all the way at 10, I'm at a 3.5. Didn't change the ISO, it still looks really good. Again, I'm at 24 frames to start. I'll probably do it once at 24 and then once at 60.
Where are you focusing?
Most everything's gonna be in focus on this lens. The most important thing is still Dave.
Yeah.
Right there, that's good. Just hang out right there. Yeah.
So what Todd did right there is he locked his focus in. He directed Dave to move on to the lane so that when he's getting this establishing shot, he knows where Dave is going to be, so it's not going to be focused perfectly on the balls here, that when you get to Dave, that he's out of focus. Dave is the important thing here, so that's why he locked that in, and the focus won't shift once he locks it in on him, as long as he leaves it in manual.
Yeah, this shot's so wide that I was getting that light all the way in the corner there. I had to just wipe that out there.
Again, with shots like this that are so wide, you want to make sure you don't have those bogeys in the background that are going to ruin your shot. So that's what Todd was watching. And that's what it's about with running and gunning. That's why we're letting Todd just run and do this. And I'm going to cut in with the commentary because he has to focus on getting these shots right so that we can do it in the time that we have before we get kicked out.
Yeah, that's great right there, Dave. That was perfect. All right, I'm gonna roll this. Can you start a little farther back, out of frame? Take some more steps back, step back, step back. Step back even more, step back even more. Right there. All right, and action. Now, I just shot that at 24. I'm actually going to go into 60 and see what that looks like.
Keep in mind that Todd is switching to 60 now. In some cameras, when you switch to 60 frames a second, it knocks your resolution down to 720. So keep that in mind when you're shooting, depending on your camera.
All right, let's do the same thing, Dave. Step all the way back. Yeah, you can come in, pick up the ball, and we'll go through the whole deal here. All right. Rolling. And waiting on the rack. And hold on a second, keep the ball there. And all the way out, and good, and action. Let's clear that, let's re-rack that, and this time do it a little bit faster. I want to accentuate it, so let's come in, grab the ball faster, shoot it faster. It'll play better once it's in slow motion. All right, all set. Let's start with the ball down again. The whole thing's gonna be faster. I'm gonna move faster, you move faster. All right, here we go, and action. Really good. Can we clear that one more time? Next time we do it, just no matter what you hit, just give me a celebration of some sort when you're walking back.
Yep. So the reason is you can probably get some B-roll of a strike and then cut that in and it looks good?
Exactly. So I could get him coming back, being really excited, and then end the whole thing by wiping down below these balls again.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. All right, we're all set. I'm rolling. And again, this will be a quick one again, Dave. All right, and action. That's great. Enough of that.
All right, so we're gonna move on from there. It's really good to direct your subject. I know Dave is very emphatic when he bowls, and just getting that reaction shot is really, really important. So Todd just got off the jib, which was a great establishing shot. Now what are you doing here?
I'm putting a focus ring on here, attaching it to this rig so I can really pull focus a lot better. I want to get a lot of action shots. He's moving and running and gunning. I'm going to be doing the same. I just want to make sure I catch everything without jerking the lens around.
Sure. Of course, the follow focus is important, and you will get better the more you do it. The more you do it, the better you get at it, and it's just a great thing to have in your bag. So Todd's got his basic rig set up here. The follow focus is ready to go. Pretty quick setup.
All right, Dave, let me see you in that same lane. The same lane. Just kind of stand there for me so I can get an idea of what I'm looking at here. All right, Dave, rolling, and action. Come on, baby. Hey Dave, where about does the ball hit?
I would say those dots was a good indicator.
So what Todd is doing here, he is getting down on a low angle, using that follow focus to try and follow Dave as he throws the ball. He's picking up B-roll, and the reason we're not going over there to talk to him is because he has to focus on getting these shots, and I've got to talk around Dave bowling. But what I want you to know is that we've already locked in our settings. You know that we're shooting at 60 frames a second because we may slow this down later to get that slow motion. So the only things that he would be tweaking right now are slight exposure changes if anything does change. So let's watch the wild animal in action. All right, Todd, what are you doing down here?
I am attempting to get a nice tight shot of hopefully what ends up being a strike here.
60 frames a second?
60 frames a second, so when those pins come crashing around, it'll look really cool.
All right. Oh, there you go.
And there we go.
See, that's a strike. That's clean. 60 frames a second. It's going to give us a lot of options to work with. Awesome job.
Thanks, man. Let's see what else we can get.
All right, here we go. All right, so we're crushing the B-roll right here. Todd, what do you want to do next?
I'm gonna change from this 24 to 70 to the 70 to 200. I can't get on the lane and get super duper close with this lens. So I don't want to be in his business. I don't want to be on the lane. So this will allow me to get really, really tight on this stuff. And then I want to start getting into racking focus from different things, from the arrows to the pins, and get some really close details.
Yeah, and this is the right, when you get to that 70 to 200 lens, or anything that is a zoom that gives you the options to get shots like this, Dave talked about from the arrows to the pins. There's a great opportunity to rack focus there. That's gonna be a great shot to cut in. We also have the ball return. It's gonna be really cool to see a ball come out of the return and Dave's hands pick it up. And then I'm sure there's things to get on the feet when Dave is sliding into action when he's throwing those strikes.
All right, Dave. I'm not too much in your way here, am I? All right. Just have at it.
Good.
Yeah.
Todd, what are you focusing on here? What's your goal?
Well, he mentioned before about the arrows and lining up with the arrows and hitting the pins that way. So I'm actually focused in here. You can see really tight. I'm on the arrows here. And then as he throws it, I watch the ball as a focus point, follow the ball all the way to the pins. It's not an easy pull, so I'm gonna have to do it a couple times, but the results will be really cool.
It's much easier with this rack focusing system.
If I was all the way over here cranking away, it would be really, really difficult. It wouldn't be fun whatsoever.
All right, let's see what you got.
All right, action. Yeah, the only difficulty with it is you know, when Dave's shooting, he does cross frame. So I have to kind of guesstimate where the ball is at that point until he kind of leaves the frame, but
sure.
It's still cool that he wipes the frame. So, like I said, it'll take a couple times, but it's gonna be really cool.
All right, have at it.
All right, and action. Got it.
How'd that feel?
Good, good, good. It was a little hairy. You know, that was a really shallow focus there, but You know, he was hitting strikes consistently. Unfortunately, I wasn't. It took me a couple tries.
All right, what are you moving on to next?
Now that I still have this lens on, I want to flip back where I was and get tighter shots of him, his expressions, the ball, his hands. This is where I can get a lot of great details with this lens.
All right, you go ahead. I'm going to talk to the camera. This is what it's about. This is the B-roll. It may not look glamorous when you're watching it here, but it's fun. This is the fun stuff. This is when you get to try different things out and about. You get to get the reaction shots. You can rack your focus. You can play around because you don't know when that B-roll is going to come in handy. You just keep on shooting, get that good stuff, and then move on when you get it.
So you keep it tucked there the whole time, pretty much? Yeah, slowly go through the motions for me, if you don't mind. All right, eyeball in the lane, and go. Find you, and action. Hold on. Rolling, and hold on, let me get my focus. All right.
Like that now.
And action. Oh boy, here we go. All right, ready, and action.
All right, Todd, what are you checking off?
I just want to make sure I got all the shots that we listed out prior, and I know I made some notes while we were doing the interview, and they're slipping my mind in the heat of the moment, so I wanted to refer back to my list.
All right, so why don't you go ahead and get to the next thing, and I want to talk to the guys here. All right, while Todd's making more notes, it's important that he has this checklist and these notes so that he doesn't forget something. Like he said, in the heat of the moment, he may forget what he's doing. Think back to pre-production. That's why you put these things down on paper so that you're ready to go when it's time to shoot. So let's follow Todd around again.
Let me see you step in here. Yeah, all right, put it back, let's do it one more time. Just come in, you can do it quick. Try to come in with your body not in front of the light, so just kind of reach your hand in, kind of keep your body out of the way there. All right, and action. Cool, thank you.
All right, Todd, what are we doing down here?
I am actually trying to pull focus from the ball return to Dave grabbing his ball, shooting, and then I'm racking all the way back down to the pins. Then I'm following the ball all the way back up to the return and just kind of cycling through that. It's a little difficult to catch everything at one time, but it's really cool, so it's worth it.
Yeah, so when you're getting this B-roll, it may not be glamorous. It's just a lot of trial and error. You have to find out what you're looking for. You've seen Todd down the lane. You've seen Todd back here. You've seen him use sliders. He's just all over the place. This is what B-roll is all about. All right, let's see this one in action.
All right, Dave, come, let's grab the red, white, and blue here. Pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Awesome. All right, Todd, I see that you broke out the slider here. What are you looking for?
Well, I wanted to get the feet. So through the slider down here, then I've got this foreground element of all these colorful balls. This looks phenomenal. And as a happy mistake, I literally just was watching this, and as he threw a ball, I realized I can pan over there and just follow the whole thing through.
All right, let's get to it. This is gonna look really good.
All right, Dave, just let me see you walk through it without throwing it. Go ahead.
See, what I like what Todd is doing is he's directing Dave here. He's saying walk through once, because that's gonna give you the look that you're gonna get so that you can see it happen once without actually throwing the ball, and then reset and get it right. This slider is adding some amazing dimension. And what I see that Todd's doing is not only is he just sliding it this way, but he's rotating at the same time. So I'm gonna get out of the way so that he can get his perfect shot.
All right, Dave, run through it full speed, just don't bowl. Oh yeah. All right, yeah, let's do it. All right, and action. Cool. And action. Hey, Jared, check this out.
What do you got, Todd?
Check this out.
That looks fantastic in slow motion. I love how it just glides and it's smooth and it added motion, something that you couldn't get if you were hand holding it.
Not at all, not at all. And I actually nailed the focus, which is I'm even more happy about.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Whew.
Where are you coming from, Todd?
Outside.
What in the world were you doing outside?
I had one shot left to get. That was an exterior. That's a nice glue when we intro the segment. We can maybe put some titles over it. Really good thing to have in post-production.
Right, so that sounds good. Do you think we have everything we need?
I think we've got more than enough, and I think we got a lot of great stuff.
Yep, so there you guys have it. We spent a long day here at the bowling alley getting this video of Dave Leno made for his EPK. We showed you a lot. We went through the lighting, the audio, the camera settings. We showed you the sliders, the jibs, and all of the B-roll, the behind-the-scenes stuff that most people don't ever get to show you. You got to see it in action, and now you get to see the final result.
Hi, my name's Dave Leno, and I'm a bowler. Really fell in love with the sport at around 12, 13 years old. Prior to that, really just bowling with family and friends in Philadelphia. But then a friend introduced me to a league, and after I really started to get the hang of things and took it seriously in a competitive mode, I was just having a blast. I bowled with better people, and for me, and this applies to all sports, not just bowling, when you play with people that are more experienced than you kind of learn from them, you watch how they act, and you kind of repeat the same things, and that's exactly what I was doing. And as a result, that average went from a 170, 180 soon enough to a 200, so it was great. And now that I'm somebody who can consistently bowl a 200, I want other people to learn as well. So if you're a casual bowler going into a bowling alley, one of the first things you do is say, all right, what color ball am I going to use, right? You're not really worried about the size, the weight. You're looking at what looks cool. Best thing to do in the rule of thumb is stick your thumb in, stretch your hands out, and find a good grip from your thumb all the way to your ring finger and your middle finger. If they're scrunched like this, that's no good because you don't want any anxiety with your wrist or any trouble over there. If you're more experienced, I would go to your pro shop in your local bowling alley, ask one of the professionals, this is how I throw a ball. Hey, come check me throw out a couple frames in the lanes and see how I can improve my game. I want to have more of a hook. I want to throw the ball more down the lane. I want more back end. He will recommend a certain type of ball. You go with what's comfortable in your price range. 3 tips to bowl exceptionally well if you're just starting out, regardless of the score. Number 1 is your approach to the lane. I like to stick to the 4-step approach. Just take 4 steps. You're not running to the line. You're not gliding to the line. You're simply walking like you go from your doorstep to the mailbox. So it's just a casual walk. Secondly, is you want to get down to the lane as low as possible. Use those leg muscles, man. If you're a right-handed bowler, you bend that left knee all the way down. You want to get as close as possible to the lane so you can hit your mark. And finally, it's about hitting that mark. You look at the pins, you look at the arrows on the lane, and you try to pinpoint a perfect placement to get that strike. I have bowled not one, not two, but yes, 300 games. And everybody wants to roll a 300 game, but let's be realistic here. You gotta aim small steps. You start out bowling, you throw a straight ball, aim for a 120. You're gonna have some open frames. Next time, go out and try to pick up the 10 pin. You keep missing every time. Work on particular shots when you're bowling throughout the game. That 120 will soon morph to a 130, to a 140. And then when you start to get into a rhythm, you get some strikes that go your way, because if you get consecutive strikes, it can really jump you up to a 180. Now, when you're in that 180 mindset and just things are really falling to your wayside, you know that you can come away with a pretty good game. And one of those games, one of those days, you can roll that perfect game. When you roll a 300 game, at least from my personal experience, that first 1 through 6 frames, I'm kind of not even thinking about bowling a perfect game. When you get that 6th, 7th in a row, I kind of like do a little ice skater dance when I get that 7th. It's kind of my thing. I'm like, all right, in the back of my mind, I'm saying to myself, man, I might have a shot at this. When I get to the 8th and the 9th, your stomach begins to gargle a little bit. I pace around a lot, but that first shot in the 10th frame is really a pressured shot. Just for me personally, after I hit that, I'll be like, damn, I have a good shot at getting this. And the 11th and 12th, honestly, if I stay relaxed and cool, hopefully I'll get it. A lot of people who go into a bowling alley maybe once, twice, or 3 times a year have a lot of negative perceptions about the sport. They think it's just for beer belly, beer drinking people that just like to get drunk and throw a ball once in a while. Not the case. Go watch a competitive league, go on a Friday night, see how people take it seriously. And when you see that pure joy and emotion from a guy who's 9 years old and from a kid who's 5 years old, you're gonna say, damn, there's something to this game where it actually is a lot of fun when taken seriously as well. And you just have that affection for people who really have started from nothing, have really fallen in love with something that they've really wanted to perfect. And it might be an affinity for you as well, and you might catch the spark too.
All right, we're back here at the loft, and this is my favorite part of what we get to show you guys, and that's just getting out here and shooting, Todd.
Yep.
So I love this. What we're gonna do is run through the process of what I go through to make a YouTube video here in the loft. Now there's a lot of information we're gonna go through. Todd's gonna be throwing stuff at me, asking me questions. Why am I doing it this way? Why am I doing it that way? And it's just gonna keep getting more in depth. So follow along. This is kind of reality style, but this is the way I love making videos. So Todd, what's up?
Well, we're here. The first question I have for you is, how do you know what you're gonna shoot?
Well, it's pretty simple. I have an idea. What am I gonna do? It depends on what type of video I wanna go and create.
Okay.
So in this case, we're gonna talk about the Nikon D30-300. It's a new camera that I picked up.
Okay.
It's got a lens, it's ruby red, it's got some great specs, and it's just a matter of then going from there. I come up with ideas. There's always gear to talk about.
Okay, so once you have that piece of gear, do you do any research just so I know you love to wing it, but do you do any little background check and kind of dig into it prior?
Yeah. What I do is I look up the specs.
Okay.
I wrote down the main facts that I want to talk about. Now, I don't use the specs when I sit at the chair unless I really don't know what I'm gonna get to.
Sure.
But what I like is the bullet points, because I can glance down, but I like maybe having it there as a reference. So
Yeah.
It's really just being prepared, because if you sit down, I like to do one take. As you know.
Yep.
One take Willie, as we like to say,
Yep.
but for some things, for cutaways, you have to do multiple takes and things like that, and we're gonna get into that when we set it up. But I like having all of the specs ready so that I'm educated, because if you're not educated and you sit down, you're just not ready to go.
Well, and I always feel like if I write it down ahead of time, even if I don't refer to it, the fact of me going and just writing it down and thinking it out kind of helps it stick in my brain.
Yeah.
And you might be the same way.
Absolutely. So I guess I'm going to run you guys through a little bit of the process of how I even start. So we've got the mentality down. That's kind of the pre-production. Thinking about what are you going to shoot, how are you going to shoot it, and then the whole setup. I have a general setup that I use quite often. So do you want me to start doing that?
Well, before you get into your setup, the question I would have is, we're doing one camera, which is our one-man band thing. Are you going to do it in one take, or do you sometimes take half a take and do a second take, or and cut it together?
No, when I'm doing my own takes,
Okay.
my goal is to do the intro, get the information out, and sign off all in one take.
One take Willie.
Well, the reason I do that is it saves me time.
Sure.
In editing.
Yeah,
I make
yeah.
a lot of content.
Yeah.
But I know that there's other things that I can do to spice up the video, because when I first started out,
Okay.
it was just one take, done, put it up, one angle.
Okay.
Now, we may add extra angles because I know you love punching in.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind, I want to see everything you do. But if you don't mind, if I see anything, do you mind me just chiming in and
just
suggesting
talk.
something?
This is an open conversation. They're just
Great.
flies on the wall,
Great.
absorbing all this information that we're talking about. So in my style, I would do one take, but I already have the idea of pre-production wise, being that I'm the director. I am the one-man band here. I am shooting this myself. I do a lot of these videos when nobody else is here to help me. So I set up the audio, I set up the lights, I set up the cameras, I set up the tripod, I set up everything because it's all on me to create this. And you guys can do that as well as a one-man band. So
we know what we're going to shoot. What's your first step?
right, I like shooting in this area. As you can see on the floor, I have some marks. These are, what do you call these things?
Marks.
Marks.
Yeah, just marks. Mm-hmm.
I actually don't use them anymore because they were marks for one thing, and now I just have an estimation of where I want to put everything. So I've got my chair over here. So I want to put that into a general area.
Okay.
Simple. General area, I have other marks over here, and I know that it's halfway between one mark and halfway between the other mark.
So, I mean, even though your final position changed, it's still a good guide for you. You still kind of know where it is. Even the fact that you know you're an inch back, they're still a good guide if you're consistently shooting there.
It's a starting point. I'm used to it. I know I can get my focus right because I know where it's going to be. So that's just one of the things. I also have the lights already on in the background.
Sure.
I put them on first because I don't want to forget to put them on.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
they're just there for extra ambiance.
Okay.
Just something cool to have back there.
Okay.
So,
All right, so you got your chair. Next up, where do you go from there?
well, I have to set up the camera and the tripod for what I'm shooting with. In this case, I'm using my camera, my setup that I use. It could be anything. I could use any camera to shoot this that I had. I could use the D3300, except for the fact that it's part of the review this time. So I'm using my D4. That's what I'm going to start with.
What lens do you usually use?
Well, for this indoors, I use a 24-70 for this.
Okay.
But maybe when we do, the product cutaways that I think we're going to do,
Okay.
I may switch. Actually, I could use the same lens for the product cutaways
All
just
right.
to make it simple.
Well, let's set it up and then we'll dig into, all your camera settings.
All right. So, one-man band. I'm not even going to ask you for your help right now, Todd. I've got my tripod.
Oh, I'm not helping you.
I've got my tripod.
Okay.
I've got my camera.
Okay.
I'm just going to let it sit here.
Here, I can hold that for you.
I just said I'm not going to let you hold anything.
I'll at least
for
hold
me.
it for you so we don't kick it over. I mean, this
Fine.
is pricey gear here.
Well, I just don't want you to drop it. So I personally set the tripod up to a certain height. That's makes me look bigger. As we talked about, I like the lower angle shooting slightly up because that's the hero shot as we talked about.
Yep.
So I've got my spots over here. I'm not going to use it perfectly set yet. But remember, here we go.
Okay.
Thank you. Always say thank you when somebody hands you the camera so that they know that you have it. Because if you don't and they let it go and they drop it, you're SOL. I lock it in. Boom. It's locked in. And keep in mind, the tripod leg is up front. It's not going anywhere if something bumps it, if I bump it. That's pretty simple. So I have that right here. What?
Well, I notice, we talked about different tripods and heads. You've got this grip head on here.
I do.
What's any issues with that? I mean, you're a one-man band. You're in front of camera, so you're not tilting or panning.
No.
So this thing isn't going to really be an issue.
No, for this type of video, this isn't an issue. Because I lock it in, I get it to where I want it to be, and then I don't have to worry about anything else.
Okay.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
If there was somebody else, if you were shooting this and we were getting motion, or you were shooting a client sitting in the chair, because it's the same thing. If you have a job where a friend or somebody asks you to make an EPK or a video like this,
Sure.
then you may start to add some movement. But that's what I do. So simply, I don't have any of the lights set up, but turn it on, get my live view going, generally set it up, and it's actually pretty good. it may be a little too close because I don't have that extra light in there, but I try to line it up here just so that it's right.
And what are you lining up with?
Well, I've got my chair. Hold on. I've got my chair right here in the viewfinder.
Are you framing it in the middle or?
I'm actually using rule of thirds here.
Okay.
And the reason I'm throwing myself off to the side is the fact that I know we may throw product cutaways up on the right. And if I was right in the middle, it doesn't leave a lot of room
Yeah,
to
that
put
makes
the
a lot
cutaways.
of sense. Yep.
Now, the other things that you can do when you're doing the cutaways, you could always have the cutaway go over the entire screen.
Yep.
But in this case, I'm pre-thinking that I want to be on the left because that leaves me 3/4 on the side to go ahead and put up anything that I want to put up.
And also, it's a more interesting shot.
Yeah. So I'm not locking in exposure or anything right now because I want to use some lights.
Okay.
That should be the next thing that I set up.
All right, so we've got this preset up here. You're looking to go to lighting next.
I'm looking to do lighting next.
Okay.
I'm going to turn off the live view. I personally turn off the live view because unlike the film crew that's on set who leaves it running 24/7 to waste battery, I like to save my batteries because I'm a one-man band. I don't want to have to recharge in the middle of shooting.
Understandable.
You know, so we've got a lot of light.
Okay, what's next?
I can get light in from the windows, but first I want to just set up my light. I've got a big-ass softbox that I personally use.
Right.
This is one of those Westcott TD6s. Not the most expensive thing in the world, but when I'm shooting indoors, it's giving me a nice, soft lighting that fills in my face. It's what I like.
Great, let's see it.
It's pretty simple. It's all ready to go. It's going to be out of my frame. Boom. I'm going to turn it on. I've got all of the lights on.
So how many banks is it?
It's 3. You can control it
Okay.
to set up 2, 4, or 6 lights.
And
in
you've
there.
got it all the way up.
Yeah, I like using these in the house. So what I do is I use this as basically my main light.
Okay.
My key light's right here. I know it's gonna wash around as I sit because it's a larger softbox.
Okay.
It's gonna allow me to fill in my face. It's not perfectly set right now, but I've got the diffusion dome on the front, the diffusion panel, just to cut back to make it soft.
Yep.
Because if we shot in here without any light, it would just look flat, it would look bland, it would look boring.
Absolutely.
So we have to use some of this light. I could really get away partly with just letting in the window light,
Yeah.
but then that's not predictable.
That and I feel like when you've got dedicated light sources, it helps to make it a little more dramatic, a little more interesting.
Sure. All right, so I know that I want to let in more light on the sides. I'm going to open up some of my shades. Now, not everybody has the lighting like this in the building, but I do. So I'm going to utilize it.
Sunlight's your first light source.
Absolutely. And today we have a pretty cloudy day, so I love overcast days when I'm shooting.
Are we opening everything on the side here?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
I'm a one-man band, Todd.
All right.
I'm watching a truck back up and hit somebody's car almost. Anyway, look at the huge amount of light that we just let in over here by the chair. I'm sorry, we get the crew running after me. But there's a major difference of what we just let in right over here.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
You can definitely see it.
Here, let me turn these off real quick and you guys can look at the chair.
Oh yeah, you're getting a ton of light here.
That's just kicking in. So basically we're balancing the background light with some of this fill light, so it's just gonna be more oomph. It's gonna give me some more dimension that I'm looking for. It just fills it in, it makes it better. So I don't know that I wanna set, actually, I'm gonna set it like this for now. But I gotta check my live view. Watch your back. We got a jib on the set. Hey, jib. I wanna make sure that this light isn't in the frame. That's one thing that I'm checking. So it's always important to check the background. That's one thing that you wanna make sure is fine. So if I had that in the corner of it, the light box, then that wouldn't be good to have in there.
Yeah.
That's just not good.
Yep.
So I have my general setup.
Now,
Right
do you have enough light in your scene?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm just setting it up. Right now on the chair, it may be a little hot, but we're not even gonna get to that for a second. You can see how that looks. So I'm gonna turn back off the live view.
Okay.
I'm gonna just move this around a little bit, but I know what you were getting at, and this is something we're definitely talking about, is in the background, it's pretty darn dark. And I have the ability to let more light in naturally because I'm just using one light for this. Now, sometimes late at night when I'm shooting videos, I don't have any outdoor light coming in. So what I need to do is I throw some lighting back in the hallway that throws out and lights up the background so that it doesn't look like I'm just spotlighted here and the background's completely dark. It gives me some separation. And you can do that with room lamps. You can do that with construction type lights.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. So what I'm gonna do, I like leaving the back ones down.
So that kind of goes back to our 3-point lighting, but that's kind of like our fourth light, adding that backlight to kind of separate the talent.
Yeah, in this case, I'm gonna add some side light that isn't in the frame, because right now my frame is part of the stoplight over there to part of the stoplight over there.
Sure.
I like to have that symmetrical. I like to have that very even though I'm off to the side.
Yeah.
Because if I just had a sliver of that window coming in on the back, it would distract me. It would just distract me. Plus, having those able to pull down, cut back on extra light,
Yep.
and on beautiful days, which today isn't one of them, and it's nice and sunny and we have the blue skies, that cuts down on it just enough that it looks so awesome out there, but it's not distracting. So I'm gonna open some on the side because I wanna fill in the piano area. I want more light back there.
All right, let's do it. You need a hand?
Yeah.
You're the one-man band.
I'm a one-man band, so I'm not even gonna ask you for your help.
All right.
So it's just simple. Just adding more light.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
watch the background.
Yeah.
And look at that.
That looks great.
So that's just that light. And I'm gonna open this one up a little bit. Means I have to get on my sofa. Hey. Oh yeah. And I'm gonna open this a little bit. Look how now we're balanced.
Yep.
And the sun I can see it, it's behind the clouds a little bit, but
That's really nice.
boom. So I opened up the side blinds. We can see that it's kind of even now. My chair is balanced with the background, which kind of makes it look pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it looks great. So I kind of want to go back. We talked about 3-point lighting when we were teaching in the back there. So we've got a backlight, which is kind of our fourth light. We've got a key light here, and the sun's almost as if it's a key here. You're not going to use any sort of fill light on this side?
I could, but I'm not going to this time.
That's not generally what you do?
No, I generally
Okay.
don't, because unless it's late at night.
Okay.
Because then I want to create some dimension. I'm able to slide the one light, the main light around,
Yeah.
so that it kind of fills in this side of the face, which is away from the light.
Right.
Because I can get it into a place that it wraps around, that it makes it some pretty even and dynamic lighting.
That's what we did with Maria. When we only used the one light in the 3-point, we wrapped it around,
Yep.
and we were able to fill it in just with the one light. I'd also point out,
I was
you got
just
a pretty,
gonna point that
pretty
out.
big white wall here that's probably bouncing some light back on
I was
you.
going to say the same exact thing. All right, Todd, let's look at settings, why I'm using it. So
Okay.
first things first, we talk about frame rate.
Sure.
We've got 24, we have 30, we have 60. I'm shooting in here at 24 frames a second.
Makes
I
sense.
like the cinematic look for
Yep.
what I'm doing. I don't need to slow anything down. I'm not going to be doing cartwheels and round-offs indoors. In the past, I may have done that,
Sure.
but right now I'm not. So that's one thing that I have set. In terms of apertures and shutter speeds, I want to be at that 1/50th of a second like we talked about, which is double the frame rate.
Double the frame rate.
And the reason I want to be at, say, 4.5, f4.5, it allows me to focus on me, on the chair, but give me some leeway to move.
So this lens is what? It's a 2.8?
This is a 24 to 70 2.8.
Okay.
So
it could be a 2.8, but
it could be a 2.8, but I don't want to shoot at 2.8. Not because it lets in too much light, it's because it's too shallow of a depth of field
Sure.
that if I miss my focus when I'm pre-focusing on myself,
Yep.
that it's going to be out. I want to make sure that the focus is tack sharp. And 4.5 gives me leeway to move, to lean in and out, to move my hands, to show something in my hands to make it just better. Plus, that allows, even at 4.5, the background's gonna blow out. And the reason is, I'm not shooting at 24 millimeters. If I was to shoot at 24 millimeters, that's gonna make it's not gonna compress the background as much.
Sure.
I like to shoot around 70 millimeters.
Okay.
With this 24 to 70, because that's gonna isolate me as the subject from the background. A lot of people, when they see some of these videos, think that we use a green screen. I don't use a green screen. It's just that the separation and the lighting that we set up, or that I set up, is pretty darn good.
that's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
so, the light keeps changing in here. To get my exposure, I'm looking, I've got my 50th of a second at 4.5. If I wanted to get the exposure more correct, I could bump up the f-stop. But then everything in the background is going to be in focus, and I don't want that.
That's not going to give you that separation.
That's not going to give me what I want. So I'm at 400 ISO. I can dial that down even more just looking at the screen, and now I'm at 200.
200?
Which is about the lowest that this camera lets me use. So there's a couple of things that I can do to cut back on light if I don't want it at 200.
Okay.
I can turn off some of the lights from this Westcott.
Sure.
One of the banks. I could move it back further. which would not fill me in as much. I mean, there is so much light coming in because the sun just moved, and that's something that you have to contend with.
Sure.
So that's where I'm at.
So what in this normal situation, when you get that light rocking through the window, would you maybe put the blinds on a little bit to cut it down, or would you?
No, I simply can put the blinds down. The reason I raised them up is because the sun wasn't out.
Yeah.
So I can lower them. I still like the ones in the back because the background now looks great. It looks great.
Okay, so but now you're getting too much on where your chair is.
Yeah, so before I start shooting, I may go back and tweak that again right before we're ready.
Okay.
But another thing that I want to make sure is that my angles are straight. I don't want my angles off.
Okay.
I'm zoomed out to 70, and we're going to see how I set this up myself to make sure I'm in the frame. Because that's one thing that I want to test out to make sure that I'm in the frame. So I guess the next step that I want to do is try to focus where I'm going to sit.
Now, I'm here, but what do you do when you're by yourself?
What I used to do is focus on that chair. You see how it says Canon?
Yes.
I used to focus on that.
Okay.
And that's why I would shoot at, say, 4 or 5 or a little more. But the problem is when you're compressing the background as much as we're doing, my chest and my body is not the back of the chair.
Not at all.
So it's larger.
Yep.
So that focusing on the back of the chair means that I may be out of focus. And that's not what I want to do. So I came up with a solution for that, and I'll show you. Okay. I have my mannequins back here.
Oh, I was gonna say, where are the bodies buried?
Well, the mannequins are all the way back here.
Okay.
I usually pick up this guy because he's pretty similar to my body.
Okay.
You know, he's got some nice pecs.
Oh yeah.
He really does have a nice butt. Yeah. I mean, look at the shape of this butt. He has a great tuchus. This is very nice. I've had this guy for a long time. He started with me in my backyard, and he used to be Mr. JPEG. But I put him in the chair. Do you see this? We have kind of the same body. Stay still. Usually he stays still for me. So I'm gonna get in front just so, this is how I normally set it up.
There you go.
He's sitting pretty much, look at that. We have the same bubble butt.
Oh yeah.
You see that?
Well, yeah.
See that?
Yeah, it
we have the same butt.
looks similar, yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
But the depth of your chest and his chest is really close.
So what I do is I go back to the camera and I focus right on this bad boy. So I'm gonna do that right now.
Great.
There's a bunch of different ways you can focus. You can do it manually, you can do it with the auto, you can use the AF on button, which is the back focus. You're in my shot, so I won't be able to focus on this bad boy.
All right.
So first things first, I just zoom in on the chest, and I do use the autofocus in this case. Okay. I have trouble seeing the screen. My eyes aren't that sharp.
Okay.
So there's a couple of things that I do. I zoom in, and I can see that it's tack sharp. I can also see on the screen that I've got the green focus box. That means that it's in focus. If it wasn't in focus, it would probably show up red. There, see? It's telling me that it's out of focus because it's red.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna I'm gonna refocus on that bad boy. I'm gonna zoom back out. There's another thing that I do here.
All right.
I have the ability to switch my camera in the manual from here. I poop that switch right there, poop it, as in pop it, and it now means that it won't focus anymore. I want to lock it in. There have been times, and I can do it on the lens as well. Let me just tell you, there's been times where I've had my focus right, and then either somebody, or I'll blame myself, accidentally hit the AF on button, and the focus went from proper and it slipped to the background, and the whole shoot was bad. And this happened on an actual video shoot. I was filming something, an artist, and it was an interview, and it was bad because it was focused on the background. It slipped. It was right, and then it slipped. So that's why I locked this in. Nothing else is gonna change. I don't want the chair to slide. I don't want me to slide, and that's what we have. That's now locked in. So we're almost ready for me to sit in the chair and get my composition.
So you're just using the autofocus to really just double check that you're hitting what you want. And then once it's locked in and the autofocus is verified, yeah, this is in focus, then you turn it off.
Well, basically, yeah, I switch the camera into manual, or I switch the lens into manual just to make sure that it's tack sharp. Because we don't need to change the focus once we start.
No, you're
because my
absolutely right.
video's just going.
That's a really interesting workaround, especially if you've got issues with seeing the screen and you're not quite sure you want to, yeah, I think that's a great solution.
Right, and as a one-man band, you need to focus on something in the chair. You probably don't have a mannequin, but a lot of people may have a stuffed animal,
Absolutely.
right? A stuffed animal can sit there.
Yep.
You could put a box there that you could focus on, because a box generally is about the same thickness of a body.
Yeah.
And so when you focus there, you're going to be pretty much tack sharp when you get it right and you get it to where you're going. So we have another thing I could do. I could always use a loop on the back to help me focus, but this is what I do when I'm in here.
I would also say, if you've got nothing else, run some test video, sit in the chair, see if your focus is there, and maybe just tweak it back and forth. That's
If you have nothing else.
It's going to be a little more time consuming.
Right.
But you could run some test shots just to make sure it's in focus before you do your one-man, one-off.
Or if somebody's in the house, you have a mom, you have a dad, you have a sister, a girlfriend, you
Sit
can
in the
always
chair.
say either sit in the chair, have them sit in the chair and focus on them, or have them focus on you and then kick them out so they don't bother you.
There you go.
So we've got that. I want to start to get my settings right, not my settings. I want to make sure that I'm framed properly.
Okay.
And to do that, I'm going to hit record here.
Okay.
I'm now hitting record. My settings are pretty darn good, but I'm not going to get rid of him totally.
Okay.
I'm not getting rid of this guy just in case this isn't right. So he sits off to the side.
Okay.
I sit down right here in my position. I'm not asking you how it is. I'm just sitting. This is how I sit. So it's testing, it's testing. Now I'm going to get up.
All right.
Making sure I don't move the chair because it's already focused in. I'm going to stop the recording and I'm going to play that bad boy back. And I want to see, oh, hey, I got that volume and it's talking to me. How do I turn the volume down? I hit minus. And we haven't even gotten into audio yet. Let's see my composition. Okay. Too much. See, for me, that's too tight to the fro up there. I want a little bit more headroom.
Little more,
I want
okay.
a little more. Remember when I talked about leaving some headroom there?
Sure.
Just a smidgen?
Okay.
Like that. So what I could do is I could pull back on the zoom just a little bit, or I could just back up the tripod a smidgen, or I could tilt up this ball head. Now the problem is when you tilt up this ball head, it's not smooth and it becomes herky-jerky. So my better option right now is probably to just pull back slightly on this. So it doesn't change very much, but I'm going to put my guy back in the chair and I'm going to focus on him after I see that I'm framed properly.
So you zoomed back out a little bit
On the zoom
to
ring.
accommodate your headroom.
Yep.
But
Option.
So you're going to check that headroom, but then after you check your headroom, you're going to recheck your focus.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the one thing I don't want to miss. One of the other things I could have done, if I had a more of a video tripod, I could have simply moved it. But I know that this thing's herky-jerky, and I don't want to really tweak with it too much because then it starts messing with my angle. So let me hit record again, and let me go sit in the chair and see that I have just enough headroom that I'm looking for. And there's other things I can do. I can sit back in the chair a little lower.
Sure.
I can hunch down, but this is where I live for a lot of my videos. So, boom. I'm going to check it because I'm not asking you.
Oh yeah, I'm just a fly on the wall here.
So I stop my recording, I go ahead and I play it back, and we're going to take a look. I can fast forward a little bit. That's, to me, I want to tilt up a little bit.
Still a little more.
I want to tilt up a little bit.
Now something I also noticed while I was watching, you've got almost a hair light back there because of that window behind you. It really helps to kind of separate the fro from the background. Is that on purpose that you're kind of lined up with the window behind you?
No, that's just luck of the draw. Some of those things, but yes, it does work. When I used to make videos in my backyard, I would set it up so that when the sun was setting, that the sun was lighting up the back of the fro and it looked like
great.
a lion's mane. You can pop those videos up.
And you know, that's what we call a happy accident, and those are always wonderful to have.
So here I go, as you can see, to make a subtle movement up. It's mostly out, but I have a good idea. Everything is straight. I'm gonna go with that. Oh, geez. This is why you don't use this stuff out in the field. Actually, what I can do is I can loosen it a little bit. Just to get it to where I want it. And now I'm gonna try it once again.
Fluid heads.
Yeah, fluid head is definitely the way to go, but this is how I make a lot of my videos. Boom. So, test it, couple seconds. Come back in. Double check. And another thing I did before this is I reformatted my memory card. I checked my battery to make sure I had enough battery power because I don't want it to just stop in the middle. And yes, I think that's about right.
Okay.
But what I don't like is that I'm slightly cutting off my fingers a little bit. See, I get pretty anal about that. I'm just going to lower it just a little bit because I was cutting off my fingers. Now, I talk with them a lot, so this is probably better. There was a little too much headroom,
okay,
but now it's just about right.
So you're going to test it one more time?
Yeah, I'll test it one more time, and then I'll lock my focus in.
Okay.
So here we go. Test it one more time. Should be right. It should be pretty close now. And once you get your general settings right, then you can pretty much go. Boom. So that's where I'm at. This is where I'm going to live. My hands are here, so I'm doing all the things now that I want to do in the video. Remember, when you're setting this stuff up, if you get it all right here, that just means that you're ready to make your videos and you don't have to worry about anything. I sometimes hammer out a couple videos in a row because once my settings are right, then I hammer them out.
Yeah.
So let's watch this back one more time. Cross my legs. Yep, I like that little bit of headroom. That's enough breathing room. My hands are both in. There I get it out just a little bit, but it's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. The one other thing I just see right here on this screen, I see a little bit of yellow peeking in on the side, and that's from something in the background. That's a bogey in the background. I'm gonna actually shift the,
Fluid heads.
Well, it's out now. And because of that, I want to move my chair over slightly because it's a little close to the edge. So that's ever so slightly. I'm going to test it again, just because. And I don't normally go through this many tests. I usually just hammer it out. And then boom. Still have my rule of thirds here, still have this over here. I've got room to talk. The reason I have this up here, I'll explain when the rest is set up. We looking good?
I thought it looked good. I thought it looked good.
Yeah, I'm going to lock this in because I don't want to make any more changes on that. Fast forward. Yep, there's a good amount of room. Nice hair light, like you said. My hands are in when I talk, so that's good. It's slightly lower than my eye level, which makes me look a little taller. Mm-hmm. So now I'm going to lock in my focus again, turn on my autofocus, got my live view going. Make sure I don't move the chair. Put my bad boy back in the chair. Stay. Mm-hmm. Focus right on him. Boom. I can zoom in to verify that. You can see how sharp that is. And the exposure isn't bad at all. It's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Lock that in. Turn this off. Now I'm going to go move him back into position because I like him in the background. It gives some interest to the background. It also blocks the plug and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
So he lives right here. That's good. So we have just about everything set there, but now we have to talk about audio. What am I going to use?
That's important.
I'm going to be coming right back over there. So in this case, I'm using a wireless setup. You can hold that.
Okay.
I'm going to plug, this is my wireless setup. These are Sony's. You can also use the Smart Lav from Rode is another one that you can use when you're out and about and you don't want to use something that's wireless. We're actually using a wireless system for recording these videos right now. So I simply connect it to my back.
So that's the one that goes with you.
This one goes to me. I run it up my shirt. You guys can watch. And then I just clip it right here.
Okay.
And yep, it's pointing straight up. So that works for me.
All right.
It's very important to have quality audio with this stuff. If we were to use just the room mic or the mic coming out of this camera, not going to sound great. You heard those examples before of how that worked.
And this is a big room. I mean, you're going to naturally get a lot of echo in here.
Right.
Having that on there is going to cut all that out.
Yeah, when you're kind of doing an interview or you're sitting in the chair talking, making your videos, this is going to give some of the best impact. If you have the ability to set up a boom mic, because I'm not going to move from that chair, that's a good option, but this is easy. This puts the audio right in line with the video that I'm making. Just that simple. So this one just sets up like this. It sits up here in the hot shoe.
Okay.
Boom. Plugs into the mic input on the side.
Okay.
Boom.
Yep.
I got to turn it on. Check my batteries.
Power's good.
Boom. Turn on the pack on my back. So they're going.
Okay.
Right here. This is where I keep my pack.
put it off a little bit to the side there so hide it from everybody on camera.
Yep. Got my antennas up. This is going to put out a nice field of view, just the radius. Not really much to talk about there. Turn it on. Get my info back up on screen.
Okay.
I have, you see my levels peaking right here?
Oh, yeah.
We know this. When we talked about audio, this is set to 14 right now for something else that I was doing.
That's hot.
That's really over the top.
Yeah.
That's not good. So I talk loud. I want to lower this. It's going to be different in each camera, but for this one, I keep lowering as I'm talking and talking and talking. I like to be at 6 or 7. Here's 7. Boom, boom. It's still not over the line. It's into the yellow a little bit. That was the -12,
yeah.
I believe, is right at the top of that yellow. I'm talking loud. I'm not going to get much louder than this, and I still didn't peak. I'm creating fits for the audio guy, but still, I'm still not peaking. But if I'm not going to go any higher, but look, if I went up to loud 9, I started to peak at 9.
Yeah,
It's into the red.
yeah.
That's no good. So I'm going to leave it right at, let's go to 7. That for me, no. Actually, I'm going to bring it down even further because I'm going to be louder just a little bit into there. That is good.
Yeah.
That works for me. So that's something that I wanted to get right because if you forget this and you don't lock this in, then you're going to be overmodulated. It's going to, and if you do it too low, then when you raise the audio, it's going to hiss like anything.
Oh, yeah.
So this is something that I get locked in. And I don't mind that I have the echo here. This is my natural environment. This is what it's going to sound like. Then there's the picture style. If this was set wrong, I have it set generically for how I want it.
Okay.
I've got the standard picture style in there, but when I go in there, I pump things up just a little bit.
Well, what do you do? What do you add to it?
What I add to it, I add a little bit more sharpness, just a little bit.
Why?
The reason I do this, the reason I lock this stuff into the camera here is because I don't want to shoot it flat. There's the people that like to shoot it flat and process it later. That's not what I want to do. And the reason I don't want to do that is because I want to pump out quality videos, but I want to pump out a bunch of them quickly. Not only does it take longer to color grade it, and I don't even know what I'm doing in color grading. I am no master editor by any stretch of the imagination. I know enough to be dangerous. I know how to make certain things, but if I was doing a full-on gig, I would find somebody to outsource that to. So editing may not be the thing that you are good at. I still think you need to learn just enough to be dangerous so that you can edit your videos on your own. One, it's expensive to outsource to a video editor like Todd, who's a very tremendous video editor, but you just really need to learn it on your own. So that's why I lock in my sharpness. I put it into a place that I think is good. I like contrast in my images because I like bright colors. That works for me. It's not over the top. It's pretty even. It's pretty level.
And that's a style you figured out over the years that you prefer.
Right. That's what I prefer for myself. We also have white balance. Right now it's set to auto. And I can tell people sometimes I've shot in that because why not? But here you have the ability to tweak it. You can see as it changes. You have the flash, you've got the cloudy day, you've got a custom setting. So I'm going to switch around white balances to see what looks best. You can see that some of these, not so good. These are the custom settings that the cameras give you. Just think back to what we shot with the white balance settings. Now, I have a custom white balance that I've set to 5,400 degrees Kelvin. That's almost daylight temperature, right? That's very, very close. So I should do another test, not only to check out my audio, to check out my white balance that we just locked in. That's something you're going to want to tweak each time. And my focus is already locked in because we've been playing with the back of the camera here, but we already locked it in. It shouldn't have changed because we didn't really move anything. Double checking my settings. I actually think the exposure is pretty darn good. Let's just double check. It's pretty darn close. It's pretty close. Even with the sun creeping in, it's pretty close. And I think what you're going to see over there is a little bit creeping in on my face too. So we're going to get a little bit more fill light from the side, or more key light from the side. And then I'm going to use this sliding around maybe over to the top to give some separation light to give it a little bit of fill. So let's, boom. Now we're recording. My levels are nice. My settings are locked in. We're almost ready to shoot this video.
That's great.
All right, so here comes the final test, Todd.
All right.
I'm gonna sit in the chair. I've got it rolling. My microphone is here. We're going through that final check that we talked about before. My focus should be locked in. My white balance is set. The metering is set. Yeah, test, 1, 2, 3, Jared Poland, FroKnowsPhoto.com. That's how I test it. So everything should be right. Should be. is the general thought. As long as I don't have to move this tripod, which is a pain in the tuchus. So I'm gonna play that back. I'm gonna do a final check, a final walkthrough to make sure everything's fine. Got my audio. Audio sounds good. The light on the face looks really good. The light coming in from the window looks really nice. The background looks nice. White balance looks good. You know, I may move this light a smidgen over just so that it fills in the other side of the face a little bit, but it's not bad at all. Not bad at all. So let me do that real quick. Heads up.
Yep.
I'm gonna come right here. May even just raise it up a little bit so it gets above my eye level. Bring it a little bit around to the front.
Over there.
Turn it in. It's just a little bit.
So it's gonna put a little more fill on the other side.
It should kick it over there. So I think we're pretty good, Todd.
Yeah, that looks
I've gotten
good.
everything set. Checklist. The microphone is set. We've got my audio levels ready to go. My exposure is locked down. We've double checked that. My framing is where I want it to be. There are no bogeys that I noticed in the background. Let me check my nose. That's always important.
Those bogeys are
I shouldn't
good.
have any bogeys in there as well. White balance is good. Focus is locked. The only thing really left to do, well, yeah, the tripod's locked. We don't want to move that.
No.
I need to pump up my arms before my take.
Oh,
and
okay.
I think we're ready to go. So I'm going to pump up my arms first.
Okay.
This is I do this.
Why do you do this?
I do this because it's a confidence thing in front of the camera. I like to think that my arms are nice and pumped because it looks good for the ladies.
That's always important.
Not just the ladies, but I feel more confident in the camera when my arms are pumped up.
The blood's flowing. You get the blood flowing.
But a lot of people do weird things before takes. I don't know if this is considered weird, but people comment on this. I remember back in the day when I lost some of my arms because I wasn't working with the trainer. Yeah. People are like, your arms are losing it, and that just wore on me. So it's a confidence builder. So that should be good.
Boom.
But the other thing I didn't talk about, Todd, as we were preparing, I'm going to walk back over to one here. What am I going to talk about?
That's a good question. That's
What am I
always
talking
important
about?
to know.
I have the Nikon D3300.
Okay.
Brand new, ruby red, the new lens that it comes with. I have a checklist right here of things that I want to hit. I may not read it during the take, but it may sit on my lap. My goal with making a video is to keep it fun and informative. One take. That's why we did all of this work to get it right at the beginning, because I want to do one take to get this part right. I'm going to go through this. I've got my main specs. I'm going to talk about it. My target is 3.5, probably no more than 4 minutes in a video.
Okay.
That gives us enough time to talk about the specs, give some commentary, and move on. I got tired and winded from pumping up my arms.
Oh, I'm sure.
Look at that.
I see your.
That looks good?
I see the arms.
Anyway,
Always look good.
so
you said you actually keep this on the side.
well, no, I may keep it on my lap. I don't care if somebody sees it because it just shows that I'm prepared. But I'm not going to sit there and read off the list.
Sure.
That's just not something that I'm going to do because I really know what most of the specs are because I've studied. I know what I want to talk about with the camera. That's part of that pre-production and directed. That's educating yourself on what you want to say and what this is all about. So the idea is that this is a preview, sniff test of the new Nikon D3300.
Let's do it, man.
So I'm ready to go.
Let's do
Everything's checked in. Put my live view back on. One final check. Everything looks good. So now I hit record and it's showtime.
Have at it.
Whew. All right.
Okay.
All right, Todd, settle. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and today I'm here to talk about the Nikon D3300 kit in ruby red, and yes, it does smell like ruby slippers from Dorothy. I should know because I've sniffed her I've sniffed her shoes before, or her slippers. So here we have it. What is this camera? Who's it for? What are some of the specs? It's really an entry-level camera. It's a beginner-end camera for people just starting out. You're gonna get great still images and great video from it. But what are some of the specs? The main spec, 24 megapixel sensor with no OLPF. What does that mean? It means that it has no low pass filter, and that means sharper video, sharper images right out of the camera. And it may be the same sensor that's in the more expensive Nikon D7100. Nikon couldn't verify that for me, but I'm pretty sure that it's the same sensor. So in this inexpensive body, to have a sensor from a very high, a medium to high-end body on the DX line, that's pretty good. It has an Expeed 4 processor. That is the processor in the camera that's handling your RAW files, that's doing all of the processing of your video, that allows you to do something that no other camera up to this point has done in a small camera, is to shoot at 1080 at 60 frames a second. That means you can shoot at 1080 at 60 frames, and that's gonna give you your slow motion images when you slow it down in case you wanna shoot something that is really fast action, say baseball, a player swinging. You have a better chance of slowing them down to get really cool slow motion shots. It has a 3-inch screen on the back. Boom. It's a very good high quality 3-inch screen. 11 focusing points. So that means you have 11 different points of focus that you can choose, and it shoots 5 frames a second. Now I can tell you that my early DSLR that was $3,600 back in 2004, I spent a lot of money for that. This camera blows that thing by far out of the water at this point. They even included a new kit lens. Now, you know I'm not a huge fan of kit lenses, but when you're starting out, learn to use this kit lens. It's going to do a great job. It's an 18 to 55 zoom, and they're calling it the version 2, which is 20% sharper and 30% lighter, or 30% sharper and 20% lighter. Either way you slice it, it's going to be better than the first lens. It has your manual to auto switch, and it even has vibration reduction, which is going to help you stabilize your images for video and for photos. That's not bad at all, and I really think that covers most of what's on my paper right there. So this is a very inexpensive camera that is a perfect starting point for somebody who wants to shoot photos and who wants to also shoot video. It has the SD card slot on the side. It takes one SD card. You have your battery down here. You should get a pretty good amount of life out of it. But really, guys, it comes in 3 different colors. Ruby red, like the slippers, and it comes in normal black, and it also comes in silver. Now, I wish the lens came in red as well, but it didn't. I picked up the ruby red because I wanted to lick it, and it tastes pretty nice as well. And that's about it, guys. If you want to pick one of these up, you can check out allenscamera.com. They tend to have all of your Nikon needs in stock. And there you guys have it. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya. All right. So that's one take.
That was one take. That's impressive. That's impressive.
I'm sorry. Let me come over here. What I do is I stop it. Oh, and it looks like it was roughly 4 minutes long. It was exactly 4 minutes and 8 seconds.
Okay.
Which means it was less than that because I had to hit the button and go sit down. And I sat there for maybe 20 seconds. So let's just play it back real quick. Boom, I start at right around 25 seconds. Sounds good. Looks good. Looks great with the cinematic look. Looks awesome with the background blown out of focus. Nice separation lights. The composition is perfect. Once we got this locked in, it would have been easier if I had a fluid head. But not everybody has a fluid head to work with.
Yeah.
So this is workable. We left enough space on. I love the headroom, Todd. Perfect amount of headroom.
It looks good.
And on the right-hand side, we have options to put up. I like to put up photos.
Sure.
And I know that you like some other things, but that is how I make a video. So I'm going to stop that. Let's stand back up. That's one take, guys. That is how I sit down and do a video. You may not be able to do that, but if you try to do one take, I fumbled a little bit. I said some things that, like, I had to think of Dorothy's name. For some reason, I couldn't think of it. And I said that I was sniffing her ruby slippers. It's just something awkward. It's something interesting to talk about. I have more on killing YouTube in the bonus section. That stuff's awesome. But that is exactly how I make this video. We shot it one take, got everything set up. Normally, it would go much quicker, but we wanted to explain everything out to you. And that is this video could stand on its own with no other changes to it. But Todd, what else do you want to see?
Well, just me personally, I naturally, because it's a product thing, I'd love to know if you're open to maybe shooting some pretty moving product shots. So maybe a slider, maybe just do some tilts around the thing. Maybe even go a little crazy, pull the jib out and do a little lift and reveal it. Something really pretty. I mean, you're a one-take wonder, but on the rare instance, if you did mess up, those are the type of things that you could cut around and use little reveal on a sexy shot of that camera to get around any kind of flubs.
Right. Now, any visual flubs or audio flubs, or just in general?
Either or. I mean, if there was a stutter or a stammer or something that you hated and you were like, oh, everything was perfect. Easy way to kind of hide that, pull it out, have a beautiful shot in between. And
so not everybody's going to have as clean of takes that I have had. So if you were shooting for a friend, say Todd was sitting in the chair making videos, he may not be able to do it as well as I did it.
Definitely
but
not.
He would, even where he fumbled, getting these extra shots makes sense. So I'm going to take Todd up on that. Normally, I may just put up a still image. That may take your video and make it look cool, but this will take it to another level, taking and adding movement to the cameras. So let's think about it real quick. I talked about the battery, the door, the lens, the red part of the camera because it's red. That gives us stuff to look at. So I think
that entire list you made up, I think we can literally set up our product shot and just really kind of follow down your list so that when you do mention those things, you have the option to cut them in post.
So Todd, I think we've really killed it right here. I'm going to take you up on what you suggested, which is adding some movement. It's going to add some flair. It's going to make this stuff better. So guys, what we're going to do, we're going to move on to that now, and you're going to see how we add movement to these videos. So here we go, Todd. You gave me the idea to do some pickup shots. On the right-hand side of the frame, no, that would be the left-hand side of the frame. We left that opening spot for that rule of thirds. And sometimes I would put still images there. And you said, why don't we do some
video? So just some glamour shots of the product so that we can kind of have an opportunity. Now, like I said, you're a one-take Willie. But if you happen to make a mistake, and some of our viewers might make a mistake here and now, I know I do, you'll have an opportunity to cut away to something really nice to showcase the product you're talking about.
Yeah, and another good thing is that adding this is going to add dimension to your videos. I know that when I've done this in the past, the videos, people like them more because there's other things to look at. It's not just me static sitting in the chair. This adds some other motion, and it's really cool. So let's talk about the lighting setup. It's pretty simple. We're using one of the soft boxes that we had before. We just put it on an arm, shooting straight down. You can see how nice that lights up our subject in this case, which is the D3300 with the lens on it. We just threw another light, another softbox in just to do the fill. Now this doesn't have to be terribly expensive. If you have just one light, you can put it up top, and if you have a panel light or anything else, that can act as your fill. We just like using this because it really makes this look great. So before we get into doing the motion and the sliders, I want to let you know that it's important that when you're making videos, don't forget about doing still shots. Stills are still important. Why? Because on YouTube, you need to put up a still frame. And trying to pull stills from video just doesn't work that well yet. So one of the things I like to do is I like to get the lighting set, and I like to do a product shot just so that I have it. And even if you have clients out there that you're doing videos for, you never know what they may need these product shots for. It makes you look better. So simple thing, I'm going to leave it with the camera on there. Why don't you hold this, or with the lens on there. I have to get all my settings right. Let's see, dial that down. This is something where it'd be great to be on a tripod. So not that we're teaching photography, but I'm bumping that up. Boom. Boom. And I would have a really nice bad exposure. Doing it one more time. And that should do it. Ooh, look at that, Todd.
Oh, that's sexy.
Pretty sweet, right? That ruby red is real nice.
That looks real nice.
So that is just a simple setup that we did with the light. And even with the background, the reason we left it in there and didn't cut it out is because it's part of the scene before. You saw the lights, you saw the mannequins, and you saw the piano. So to have that in this, it's perfectly fine. So it's now time to do some movement. Now the first thing that I could do is I can just handhold it and see what that's going to look like.
You definitely could. The only thing I would recommend, not that I recommend hand holding, shoot it a little wider. So if in post you need to stabilize that shot a little bit, you've got a little room for the computer to crop in and stabilize that.
So if you're doing digital stabilization.
Exactly.
Now this is probably going to be pretty shaky. If you have lenses that have VR or IS or some form of stabilization, this is the time to use it if you're going to do handheld. So I simply can I got to make sure that my exposures are right. Ooh, I even got into the shooting stance, Todd.
I see you. I see you.
Being that I don't have my glasses on and I normally shoot video like that, I'm locking my focus in, using the autofocus this time, but I'm not continuously changing it.
No.
So I'm still at the same settings as we were before. Actually, I'm at 250 ISO now, so those are slightly different.
A little bit.
We already have the lights locked in for what we're doing because this part is just about the motion. Oh, and what I like is I like the red light coming in the background. So I'm doing some soft pans, not very soft, as I see it jiggling, Todd. As I see it jiggling back and forth. So I come down at a lower angle. It's like boom. Focus in on the lens part. Actually, I want to get comfortable.
And you could probably even slide your hand right on the table here so you can almost be like a little poor man's slider.
Ooh, look at that. And then back.
Now do it, try and just keep it centered and slide around it in a circular motion.
Oh, it's so sexy. Oh, it's not very easy on that, Todd. That is definitely not easy. What would your recommendations be other than this? Should I hop up onto the next thing?
Well, I know you've been a big fan of this monopod, so why don't you give that a shot and see what stuff you get with that.
All right, so this one is pretty simple. Like this. We lock it in. Boom. Now I want to get down at a lower angle.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, it's so much more stable. So get my focus going. So simply, I need to hit record.
That's always important.
Ooh. The subtle touch.
Yeah, that's sharp. That's real nice. And that looks a lot better than the handheld.
Yeah, and I'm barely even touching this. So I'm going to move back. So that's a really cool shot to swoop down in. Now I'm going to loosen this. And you kind of can let it just go on its own sometimes.
I mean, this is a different head on this one.
It's a fluid head.
This is a fluid head.
Watch, you ready?
Let's see what you got.
The reveal.
Ooh. Purdy.
And usually I would stop there, but let's see. I'm going to let it drop on its own. I just want to get the right
Let it do it.
smooth. Look at this.
Beautiful. Now see, yeah, I like how you've got that framed over to the left there, because then when you start talking about the different settings and the different things it's got in that camera, you can put it off here on the side and make notes of all the different
I just like doing
characteristics.
this. That's pretty cool.
That's great.
I don't know if I should have done this while I'm recording. Before I was recording, oh, I can check. I was sharp, and I manually did it. You see that? I forgot to do that. I should have zoomed in, but I could have gotten it if I zoomed in, and I did get it. So that's definitely helped. That was pretty cool.
That was really cool.
That was one way to do it. Other things you can do, you can throw on longer lenses, and that would give you a different look. But just for showing some of this, we're probably going to need to focus in on do video of the doors and things I talked about, or those are things that you could do with still photos as well.
Absolutely. I think another option we could have here is, I've got a slider here. So we could absolutely throw this up on the table. Take this here, pop that bad boy off.
Ready? Same plate.
Same plate. That simple. Boom. There you go. Now, what you can do for this, you're going to see there's a little bit of slide here. You can take some, you can hold it while you do it. You can also put some little sandbags just to kind of, to keep it locked down. You can also put this, if you've got two tripods, you can put it on that. If I have a table to put it on, it's kind of nice just to throw it on there. So if you'd like,
You want me to do it?
have at it.
All right. Got to get my live
I will
view
give you
on.
one hand. I will hold this for you so it stays steady.
Well, I'm not ready, so I want to get this over here. But wow, that is so much more smooth. Let me zoom in my focus this time.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. You ready?
Roll it.
So it's rolling. To be honest with you, I haven't used a slider myself. This is the first time I'm touching it. It just makes sense. Oh, that's so funny. And then you can come back. And I can stop with it over there.
Now you can also, once you get through here,
All right, bring it back.
what you can also do then is, frame it here. You might have to ride the focus a little bit, but just slide it and keep it framed up on the right so you can do a slide and a pan, and it's really sexy.
Let's take some practice.
It definitely does.
And you need to lubricate this better.
Yeah. A little bit of pledge on one of these things will do miracles to help it slide. So I really like that movement at least, but I don't feel like the slider's the easiest way to get that. I'd like to be as low as you were when you were doing your product shots. It'd be at eye level with our subject, basically. So I'd like to grab it, throw it on the jib here, and see how that looks.
Cool.
Boom. So now we got this set up here. Now we had talked before, we have got all this balanced out already. Everything's set. It's not going anywhere. We've talked previously about using a foreground element to reveal characters, or in this instance, the camera. So I'd love to kind of come up off of this to reveal your product here. It's a little too far away though. So let's move it up here a little closer. This will be a little more dramatic by coming off of this really close, boom, all the bokeh in the background.
So you're adding movement, and that's what this jib is allowing you to do. It's allowing you to get that smooth motion that, was it a hero shot? Did you talk about that? Or a reveal? We talked about showing something coming off of the ground.
Yeah, this is gonna be a reveal, because I'm coming off the black, the darkness of this table, so it's gonna come from black just to open up to this big wide space with this camera looking epic in the foreground.
So that's a great option. So remember guys, that a jib may not be in your budget. It may not be something that you have access to, but there's travel jibs, there's smaller options, or there's the things that we talked about before. Maybe not hand holding, but the little monopod with the fluid head. You can still do a lot of this stuff. You're just cheating it a little bit. And remember that these are quick videos. The video that we did earlier is under 4 minutes, and you are taking a lot of time to do this, but it's gonna make your shots look that much better if you take the time to do it.
Absolutely. So I've got this in focus now. I'm gonna hit record, and I'm gonna come down and get into the black of the table. And then I'm gonna just gently bring this up here and stop right there.
So it's a very subtle motion.
Very subtle motion. It doesn't need to be a big move to add the production value.
And you can see how much more smooth it is than what we did earlier. This is such a smooth, balanced option when you get it right. It's pretty cool to have this going.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut this here. Another option I'd like to show you here is I'm gonna go a little wider on it, kick this a little bit off to the left, similar to how you were framed up. I'm gonna kick it there. Again, I'm gonna do a reveal, come up here, and stop.
And if I was to guess what you were doing here, I think I put it all together. The fact that you put it on the left-hand side, if we were to make an intro to the video, the first thing, like the title card, right? This would roll up, there's the camera, and as soon as it peaks up, you would put the text on the screen?
Absolutely. Or while you're explaining all the specs of the camera, you might have this sexy shot come into play, boom, the specs start popping up. Everything that the camera does, really nice way to cut into a video if you're not as good as being a one-take wonder as you. If you do make a mistake, it's a great way to be able to pull out the mistakes, add a great looking shot.
So another thing you guys want to remember is that you're shooting possibly for another editor. You may be shooting for somebody else who will be editing the final product. It's not out of the question that somebody asks you to shoot for them and then they take the footage and do something with it. Also, you may be shooting for yourself. So remember that. You are shooting for an editor, you're shooting for yourself. Just have all of that back in your mind that this is part of the directing and the pre-visualization and the storyboarding. You're figuring it out beforehand so that when you get here, you have all of these ideas ready to go.
And another thing this does is it kind of takes the pressure off you. If you are a one-man band, you're in front of the camera as well as behind the camera. There's not as much pressure to just get it right in one take. You're really good at it. Some of us, like myself, might not be as good. So it takes the pressure off. You don't have to nail it in one take. You've got things that you can help piece it together. So one other option here, when we were doing the slider, we were going side to side. It was cool, but again, I was too high on it. So I'd like to actually do that motion right here with this. We could do the same thing. I'm right at the eye level with the camera. Much better shot.
So what you're going to do is, you just want to slide with it.
Well, I'm going to do it a couple different ways. So I'm going to keep the focus right here, and I'm just going to simply wipe out as if I'm on the slider, come back over.
So there are a lot of subtleties to this. You have to be pretty still and you have to pay attention to what you're doing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, another option there, that's similar to the slider move, but now we were down this low. Another one I think would be really great, a real sexy shot, is we can come down here, get our focus, and even get our focus. So we don't really need, again, we don't need to move that much to really make it look awesome. So I'm going to get a good handle on this. I'm going to keep it framed left the whole time right now, but I'm going to circle around, and as I'm circling, I'm going to pan, and it's going to be a really great effect. So I'm coming around here. Oh, that's really nice. That looks great. This setup here, I think, is going to get us the most bang for our buck. I'd love to keep grabbing some stuff and see what we can get.
Sure, so Todd's going to keep on shooting, but I want to remind you about a couple of things that you can still do. We're going to end up rotating the camera to show other aspects of it, the doors, the batteries, the buttons, because it's always good to get those in video. But also, it's great to get these shots in still photos. Don't forget, even though you're shooting a video, if it's for a client, if it's for YouTube, you have to get that thumbnail photo. And it's easier to take the photo in the camera than to try to pull a still from the video we're shooting. It's going to look much cleaner. So what we're going to do, we're going to keep shooting, get some more angles on this, and you're going to get to see the final results right now. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and today I'm here to talk about the Nikon D3300 kit in ruby red, and yes, it does smell like ruby slippers from Dorothy. I should know because I've sniffed her shoes before, or her slippers. So here we have it. What is this camera? Who's it for? What are some of the specs? It's really an entry-level camera. It's a beginner-end camera for people just starting out. You're going to get great still images and great video from it. But what are some of the specs? The main spec, 24-megapixel sensor with no OLPF. What does that mean? It means that it has no low-pass filter, and that means sharper video, sharper images right out of the camera. And it may be the same sensor that's in the more expensive Nikon D7100. Nikon couldn't verify that for me, but I'm pretty sure that it's the same sensor. So in this inexpensive body, to have a sensor from a very high, a medium to high-end body on the DX line, that's pretty good. It has an Xpeed 4 processor. That is the processor in the camera that's handling your RAW files, that's doing all of the processing of your video, that allows you to do something that no other camera up to this point has done in a small camera, is to shoot at 1080 at 60 frames a second. That means you can shoot at 1080 at 60 frames, and that's going to give you your slow motion images when you slow it down in case you want to shoot something that is really fast action, say baseball, a player swinging. You have a better chance of slowing them down to get really cool slow motion shots. It has a 3-inch screen on the back. Boom. It's a very good high quality 3-inch screen. 11 focusing points. So that means you have 11 different points of focus that you can choose, and it shoots 5 frames a second. Now I can tell you that my early DSLR that was $3,600 back in 2004, I spent a lot of money for that. This camera blows that thing by far out of the water at this point. They even included a new kit lens. Now, you know I'm not a huge fan of kit lenses, but when you're starting out, learn to use this kit lens. It's going to do a great job. It's an 18 to 55 zoom, and they're calling it the version 2, which is 20% sharper and 30% lighter, or 30% sharper and 20% lighter. Either way you slice it, it's going to be better than the first lens. It has your manual to auto switch, and it even has vibration reduction, which is going to help you stabilize your images for video and for photos. That's not bad at all, and I really think that covers most of what's on my paper right there. So this is a very inexpensive camera that is a perfect starting point for somebody who wants to shoot photos and who wants to also shoot video. It has the SD card slot on the side. It takes one SD card. You have your battery down here. You should get a pretty good amount of life out of it. But really, guys, it comes in 3 different colors. Ruby red, like the slippers, and it comes in normal black, and it also comes in silver. Now, I wish the lens came in red as well, but it didn't. I picked up the ruby red because I wanted to lick it, and it tastes pretty nice as well. And that's about it, guys. If you want to pick one of these up, you can check out allenscamera.com. They tend to have all of your Nikon needs in stock. And there you guys have it. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.